Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles. Chapter 44-42. Do you know? Princess Baihua stared at Xiaohua and said, "You really are a good person. And a good person who doesn't understand romance. You ignored a beautiful woman who could have given you the entire Cha-Nu kingdom and went to save the demons. I hate you." Although Princess Baihua didn't gnash her teeth, Xiaohua looked at her with an expression that he couldn't bear to look back. Xiaohua's heart was filled with an indescribable feeling. He couldn't help but take a deep breath and ask in a low voice, "Jean, what happened that day?" "Jean, Princess Baihua smiled bitterly and let out a long sigh before replying, "I am no longer your Jean, I gave you the chance to call me that in the early years, but you didn't. If you call me that now, Su Ji will probably be jealous." Xiaohua frowned and couldn't help but ask again, "Who is Su Ji? Is he your dual cultivation partner?" He. Princess Baihua suddenly covered her mouth and giggled, "I forgot. Although you are very familiar with Su Ji, you don't know his real name. Let me think, his current name should be Do Shanjun." Hearing the three words Do Shanjun, Xiaohua couldn't help but gasp and his entire body stiffened again. After a long while, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, "In that case, senior, unfortunately," before Xiaohua could finish, Princess Baihua pouted and interrupted him, "You just called me Jean, but after hearing Do Shanjun's name, you directly called me senior. You really hurt my heart." Xiaohua helplessly smiled and said, "Senior must be joking. Junior's cultivation was taught by Senior Do Shanjun. Senior Do Shan is a great expert who hides his strength. I presume Senior is also like him, right?" AI. Unfortunately, Princess Baihua didn't have any awareness of being a senior. She sighed again and said, "No wonder Su Ji praised you so much in front of me. Not only are you a rare Taoist cultivator who cares about the people of the world, but you are also a person who truly cares about the teachings of the Tao. I'm curious, why didn't you cultivate Confucianism? Why did you come to our Tao sect and become a Grand Ascension stage human?" Hearing Princess Baihua call herself a member of the Taoist sect, Xiaohua was even more certain of her strength. He was well aware that even though he was a Grand Ascension stage human, he was still far from being able to match up to the mysterious Do Shanjun. As for this Princess Baihua in front of him, she shouldn't be any worse than Do Shanjun, right? He didn't know what Princess Baihua was planning, so he didn't dare to speak carelessly. He could only smile. "Let's go." Princess Baihua flew in front of Xiaohua and very naturally reached out her hand to grab Xiaohua's arm. "Tonight, accompany this concubine to look at the moon, this." Xiaohua was very embarrassed. He slightly leaned to the side, trying to avoid Princess Baihua's hand. "This isn't appropriate, right?" Unfortunately, even though Xiaohua had already reached the Grand Ascension stage, he was still unable to escape Princess Baihua's grasp. Princess Baihua hugged Xiaohua's arm and said with a smile, "This concubine is just joking with you. Su Ji doesn't know about this, and he won't be jealous of Princess Baihua." But. Xiaohua felt the warmth of Princess Baihua's body and the softness of her arm. He was very embarrassed and said two buts in a row. However, just as he was about to decline, he suddenly understood and whispered, "Princess." "Princess Baihua?" "Yes." Princess Baihua smiled. "This is Princess Baihua's last wish. You don't want to disappoint her in the afterlife, do you? It's just a good impression." Xiaohua said helplessly. Princess Baihua blinked and said, "Yes, it's just accompanying Princess Baihua to look at the moon." Seeing Princess Baihua like this, Xiaohua couldn't help but think of Fairy Jing. He sighed and didn't say anything else. Just like that, the man was like a jade pillar supporting the sky, his figure like a mountain, his aura like a rainbow, slowly walking under the stars. Like a little bird, the woman stayed by his side and hugged his arm tightly. She rested her head on his shoulder, and her black hair fell on his body. They didn't say anything and didn't need to talk about anything. Just like that, they walked through the night, the darkness, the wind, and the dew. When the first light of dawn appeared in the distant sky, the world turned dark again. Princess Baihua said faintly, "Ever since I started working for the throne, this feeling has become a distant memory of mine. Now that I think about it, to be able to spend a lifetime with the person I love, let alone the throne, even if it's everything in the world, it's nothing. Perhaps." Xiaohua didn't know what to say. He was still sad about Fairy Jing's death, so he really couldn't say anything to Princess Baihua. What an unromantic guy. Princess Baihua smiled and glanced at Xiaohua. She reached out and pinched Xiaohua's arm, saying, "Can't you say something sweet?" Xiaohua touched his nose with his left hand and bitterly smiled, "I'm afraid of being chased by Senior. That guy has a favor to ask of you right now, how could he be willing to chase you?" Princess Baihua smiled. Xiaohua stopped and saw that the darkness before dawn was gradually retreating. He turned to Princess Baihua and said, "Jean, the road will always have an end, but fate doesn't have an end. Fate doesn't have an end. Perhaps one day, you and I will meet again." With that, Xiaohua extended his left thumb and gently stroked Princess Baihua's eyebrows. "Yes." Princess Baihua closed her eyes and felt the warmth of Xiaohua's finger on her eyebrows. She whispered, "Fate is always wonderful. That damned Su Ji, if he had half of your sweet words, I wouldn't have." "Forget it, let's not talk about him." When Xiaohua's finger fell from between Princess Baihua's eyebrows, Princess Baihua also let go of his arm. Then, she charmingly combed her hair and smiled, "Since we met tonight, I've helped Princess Baihua fulfill her last wish. You can say that I didn't let her down." The night was silent, but Xiaohua's mind was full of thoughts. He thought about what Princess Baihua said after meeting her and knew that the current Princess Baihua was no longer the Princess Baihua from 200 years ago. He bowed and said, "Senior, what happened 200 years ago? Can you tell this junior now? My name is Xingyue." Princess Baihua glared at Xiaohua and said, "Calling me senior makes me feel old." "Yes, Fairy Xingyue." Xiaohua smiled, "So every woman doesn't like to grow old." Just as he said this, Xiaohua was suddenly startled. The smile on his face disappeared and he almost lost his voice. "Xingyue? Fairy? What's your relationship with Xingyue of the hidden immortal continent and Zhai Xinglu?" Fairy Xingyue turned her eyes and smiled. The dawn was like a flower blooming. She said, "Since you already know, why do you need me to explain?" Sigh. Xiaohua stopped being shocked and sighed, "After this junior saw the strength of Zhai Xinglu, I've been thinking about which expert created Xingyue. But I really didn't expect, it would be a Dao cultivator like you. No wonder you know so much about this junior." Fairy Xingyue nodded, "I know about you from Princess Baihua's memories. Then, news about you was continuously sent to Zhai Xinglu. I remember that in the Bronze Pillar country, you threatened to fill Zhai Xinglu's Book of Heroes. I think Zhu Qing was just flattering you that day. He probably didn't expect that among the Dao cultivators in the Book of Heroes, besides Grand Mist Ancestor, you're the one with the most records. Moreover, if nothing unexpected happens, when you come out of Xingyue Palace, your heroic deeds will definitely surpass Grand Mist Ancestors." Maybe. Xiaohua smiled. Now, he really didn't care about the records in the Book of Heroes. "However, I'm still very curious. What's your relationship with the Sutra seeking extreme happiness? This is something that has never been recorded in my Xingyue Palace." Fairy Xingyue didn't mention Princess Baihua and wanted to get to the bottom of it. "I think even Vairocana revered Buddha and immortal Emperor Gochen don't know about it, right? Since it's so secretive." Xiaohua smiled and said, "Why do you want to know? If you don't tell me, I won't tell you about Fairy Baihua." Xingyue looked at Xiaohua with a smile, a sly look in her eyes. Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and replied, if you don't want to say, then there's no need to. Anyway, there won't be a Princess Baihua in this world in the future. As for what happened 200 years ago, I don't want to know too much about it. Sigh, men are all ungrateful things. Fairy Xingyue sighed and said, I thought you would be an exception. But after walking with me for a night, you forgot about Princess Baihua so quickly. Xiao Hua, of course, knew that Fairy Xingyue was trying to provoke him. He didn't answer and just looked at the sun that had just risen in the distance with a smile. The orange-red color had already scattered all over the sky and was now slowly covering the earth. Okay. Seeing that Xiao Hua didn't fall for her trick, Fairy Xingyue had to say, I'm afraid that you're the only one in this world who cares about Princess Baihua's life and death. If I don't tell you, who else can I tell? Fairy, please tell me. Xiao Hua stopped smiling and looked at Fairy Xingyue seriously. Princess Baihua is a beautiful woman with a short life. Fairy Xingyue waved her hand and motioned for Xiao Hua to follow her. While flying, she said, she lived in the palace of the Cha New Kingdom since she was a child. Although she was a noble princess, in order to obtain the position of king, she racked her brains to calculate and compete with the other princesses for fame and fortune. She didn't have much happiness. She participated in the auction at the star-picking tower of the Bronze Pillar Kingdom for the position of king. She even invited you for this reason. It wasn't until you met her again on the dragon boat that she began to have a good impression of you. And when you took action for the sake of the baby of the light beast, she was deeply shocked. She really didn't expect that there would be such a fearless man in this world. Chapter 44-43. Just when she was a little tempted, she suddenly heard a rather familiar voice. She had occasionally heard this voice in the Cha New Kingdom's palace. If I'm not wrong, this voice should belong to the other princess's backer. But at that time, Princess Baihua wasn't completely sure, so she didn't tell you. When you followed the light beast and broke open Catfish's body, she escaped with the humans and demons. By then, you had already flown away with the light beast, so she couldn't catch up even if she wanted to. Old monster Jifeng, Ao Shui, and that stag king also seemed to have something to do. They hid in a corner and didn't allow anyone to approach them. Princess Baihua had no choice but to return to Bronze Pillar Country alone. On the way back, that person indeed appeared. He didn't even allow Princess Baihua to beg for mercy and killed her. After killing her, that person calmly escaped. When I passed by, Princess Baihua's body was almost cold. Princess Baihua went to Zhai Xinglu to bid, which was arranged by Zhai Xinglu. They wanted to find a few suitable bodies for me, and Princess Baihua happened to be one of them. At that time, my body was already somewhat old. When I saw Princess Baihua die, I simply occupied her body and obtained her memories. But at that time, my body wasn't stable yet, so I didn't find that person to avenge Princess Baihua. In the end, before I could do anything, Zhai Xinglu sent news that that person was actually killed by you. At that time, I felt that you and Princess Baihua's fate was not shallow. Last night, I accompanied you all the way. Other than fulfilling Princess Baihua's wish, I also wanted to thank you for avenging Princess Baihua. Hearing this, Xiao Hua understood and nodded. The person who killed Princess Baihua should be Jia Sa Country's Prince Hai Tian. This guy's strength of 5th grade essence energy is more than enough to kill Princess Baihua. That's right. It's him. Fairy Xingyu nodded. Jia Sa Country's ambition is huge. But after you killed Hai Tian and a few Buddhist monks, their royal family was annihilated by the Immortal Palace's immortal soldiers. Since then, they have been unable to recover. When I returned to Cha New Kingdom, I also uprooted Jia Sa Country's influence there. The princess who had led the wolf into the house didn't have any intention of killing Princess Baihua. Hai Tian running into Princess Baihua could only be said to be a coincidence, so I didn't kill the princess. Later on, I took the position of the queen of the Cha New country and fulfilled Princess Baihua's long-cherished wish. Only then did I leave the Cha New country. When I returned to Star Moon, I started paying attention to you because of Princess Hundred Flowers. Fairy Xingyue continued, I roughly flipped through the contents of the Book of Heroes and became increasingly interested in you. When I started looking for your origins, I suddenly realized that you are actually very mysterious. Even with the power of the stars and moon, I could only find out about your deeds in Longevity Town. After that, I couldn't find any clues at all. It was as if you fell into Longevity Town out of thin air. Later, Su Ji, who you met in Copper Pillar Nation and Black Wind Mountain Range, suddenly came to Star Moon. His purpose was the same as mine. He wanted to find out about your background. Because his love for talent, which was hurt by the Grand Mist ancestor, has recovered. He wants to create you, the almost extinct Taoist cultivator, a good person. In the end, I don't need to say more. He also has no clue. When he heard about what happened between you and Princess Baihua, he also sighed. After all, he was the Copper Pillar Academy's judge at that time. These things happened around him. Therefore, he made another decision. He wanted to impart some cultivation techniques to you. To be honest, I thought that he was too badly hurt by the Grand Mist ancestor. When he saw such a talented and broad-minded Taoist cultivator like you, he wanted to use you to deal with the Grand Mist ancestor. At that time, I even scolded him for being crazy. However, looking at your current strength and thinking about his decision that day, I really admire his divination skills. I really don't understand how he could determine that you could cultivate Unstoppable Thunderbolt to the extreme in 200 years' time. I also don't understand how he could determine that you are the key to our trip to Star Moon Palace this time. After all, at that time, you were just a small cultivator with 5th grade essence force. You even dared to suppress Bai Qingyu's Demon King. Oh, speaking of Bai Qingyu, when we heard that you were suppressed that day, Su Ji immediately rushed to Bai Qingyu. He knew that the rainbow seashell was powerful and was afraid that you would get involved with her. However, when he realized that the dragon was only similar to your soul and looked the same, he left. It was only then that Su Ji and I realized that the news about you in the 3 continents was all done by the dragon. You didn't even show your face. Of course, I found it strange. I activated the power of Star and Moon to search the hidden immortal continent, Thousand Demons Sacred Realm and Pure Land. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any trace of you. Until yesterday, when I met you above the swamp. Darling Xiao. At this point, Fairy Xingyu's voice was as sweet as honey. Can you tell me, where did you come from? Where did you go in these 200 years? How did you cultivate your strength? Xiao Hua flew to Fairy Xingyu's side and listened carefully. Although Fairy Xingyu didn't explain in detail, Xiao Hua was still shocked. He really didn't expect that so many things had happened without his knowledge. Not only Do Shanjun, but the mysterious Fairy Xingyu in front of him had also been looking for his whereabouts. It seemed that, except for the concealment of the space, there was nothing he could hide from her. When he heard Fairy Xingyu's question, he understood that it wasn't that Fairy Xingyu and Do Shanjun didn't believe him. Do Shanjun had never asked about his origin. Fairy Xingyu's curiosity was purely due to her instinctive curiosity as a female cultivator. Xiao Hua thought for a while and said, Fairy, it's not that I can't answer your questions. However, if Junior answers Fairy's question, can Fairy also tell Junior where Fairy and Senior Su Ji came from? This. Fairy Xingyu's face revealed an awkward expression and her tone was a little hesitant. However, after a while, she said quickly, of course. Why not? Su Ji and I have already discussed this. Since we need your help, we can't tell you the truth. Otherwise, with your character, you might cause trouble again. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly and said, is this Junior's character that bad? Didn't you just say that I'm a good person? You are a good person, but if you take action, you seem to be extremely ruthless. Fairy Xingyu pursed her lips and smiled. Su Ji and I don't want to take this risk. Okay. Since Senior Su and Fairy Xingyu are willing to be honest, I won't hide it anymore. Xiaohua nodded and said, Fairy Xingyu, tell me first. When you finish, I will tell you everything I know. Hearing Xiaohua's words, Fairy Xingyu glanced at him and said coquettishly, you are really cunning. I asked you first. How can you let me tell you first? Besides, Su Ji is not here at this time. I can't tell you first. Where is Senior Su now? Xiaohua understood and said with a smile, aren't we going to meet up with him in front of the Star Moon Palace? Of course we are rushing to the Star Moon Palace now. As for where Su Ji is now, I don't know. Fairy Xingyu replied, however, I think that if Su Ji knows that you are here, he will be very happy. He can't wait to come and find you. However, if he comes, won't our peace and quiet be destroyed? Hearing this, Xiaohua was speechless. He smiled bitterly and said, Fairy Xingyu, you better send a message as soon as possible. I am really afraid that Senior Su will hunt me down. He dares. Fairy Xingyu laughed again and said, besides, don't you still have me? If he wants to make a move, why fall out with him? If you and I join forces, Su Ji can only run away. Well, when Senior Su fishes the needle out of the sea one day, you two seniors will hunt me down again. It will be my turn to run away. Su Ji fishes the needle out of the sea. Fairy Xingyu was slightly stunned. Obviously, she did not understand the meaning of Xiaohua's words. A woman's heart is a needle at the bottom of the sea. Xiaohua said with a smile, with Senior Su's magical power, it shouldn't be difficult for him to fish a needle out of the sea, right? Humph. Fairy Xingyu snorted and said, it's not a problem for him to fish a needle out, but when it comes to fishing a woman's heart, he can't compare to you. Xiaohua raised his hand helplessly and said, Fairy Xingyu, I surrender. You can't always drag me into things, right? This junior has a lot of burdens in his heart. I always feel that Senior Su is watching me from the side. What do you think? If others want me to say it, I don't like to say it. Go ahead and enjoy yourself. Fairy Xingyu curled her lips and opened her mouth. A 3-inch-long shuttle flew out of her mouth. This shuttle was different from the usual celestial devices Xiaohua had seen. Not only was it transparent, but there were also many starry spots inside. These starry spots flowed slowly as the shuttle moved, like a small galaxy. The shuttle landed in the air and Fairy Xingyu formed a magic art with both hands. As the magic art was revealed, the surrounding space vibrated. Wisps of crystal-like heaven and earth essence chi fell into the magic art. After a few minutes, the magic art was completed, and a small starlight appeared on Fairy Xingyu's index finger. Fairy Xingyu raised her hand and the starlight fell into the shuttle. Boom! The shuttle suddenly dispersed as if it had fused and turned into a galaxy. Go! Fairy Xingyu scolded softly. Her hands quickly formed another magic art and hit the galaxy. The galaxy flickered slightly in the air and immediately flowed into the void and disappeared. Seeing the shuttle disappear from his divine sense like a drop of water falling into the sea, Xiaohua's eyes became thoughtful. Chapter 44-44 Xiaohua, I heard that you know the thunder escape technique. Let's have a competition. Let me see the power of the world's #1 escape technique. After Fairy Xingyu finished speaking, she didn't wait for Xiaohua's reply. Then, her entire body started to distort rapidly. Swoosh! Like a gust of wind, she flew out. Rumble! Xiaohua did not dare to be negligent. He activated his true origin, and lightning surrounded his body. He also turned into a thunderbolt and flew in the direction of the cool breeze. The cool breeze was just a thunderbolt in the middle of the mountain. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days had passed. In front of a huge mountain range in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, there was a distortion in the space. Several gusts of cool breeze came out of the void and condensed into a human figure in the sky. This human figure looked extremely thin and flat, like a piece of starlight. After swaying a few times in the wind, it instantly became full like a balloon, revealing Fairy Xing Yu's impressive figure. In just a few breaths, a bolt of lightning appeared above Fairy Xing Yu's head with a swoosh. Immediately, there was a rumbling sound of thunder in the void, as if thousands of horses were galloping. Amidst the lightning, Xiaohua's slender figure also appeared calmly. He he. Fairy Xing Yu looked at Xiaohua and said with a smile, the so-called fastest thunder escape technique in the world is just this. In the past 10 days, you have not surpassed me by even one step. That's right, Fairy's wind escape technique has already reached the acme of perfection, it's something that Junior can't reach. Xiao Hua's face didn't have any disappointment as he nodded and replied. Then, he looked in front of him and asked, if Senior Su came from the direction of the Star Moon Palace, he should be here now, right? Why don't we put in more effort to welcome him? Oh. Seeing that Xiao Hua's figure moved slightly and was about to fly away, Fairy Xing Yu seemed to understand something and said, Xiao Hua, tell me honestly. Have you activated your thunder escape technique to the extreme? Are you competing with me, or are you afraid that you can't find the Star Moon Palace? Are you flying with me? Huh, Fairy, you think too much. Xiao Hua faintly smiles and says, Junior's strength can't compare to Fairy's, so of course my flying speed can't compare to yours. Humph. Fairy Xingyue did not move at all. She pointed in the direction that Xiao Hua was about to fly and said, that direction is already south. It's not where Xingyue Palace is located. Why are you flying there? Do you think that if I fly in this direction, the east will be in front of me? You can't tell the direction at all. You didn't want to overtake me because you were afraid that you would fly in the wrong direction, right? This. Xiao Hua scratched his head, somewhat embarrassed. Forget it. Fairy Xing Yu glared at Xiao Hua and said, I have no reason to compete with you in terms of flying speed. If you claim to be second in the entire 3 continents, no one would dare to claim to be first. Zhai Xing Lu's Book of Heroes clearly states that your strength is 1 level higher than your cultivation level, and your flying speed is 1 level higher than your strength. Xiao Hua's face was bitter as he spread his hands and said, Fairy, you have really wronged me. My thunder escape technique is indeed inferior to Fairy's wind escape technique, so I was still thinking of how to ask Fairy for advice on the wind escape technique. You. Fairy Xing Yu was really speechless. She scolded, you are really the same as what the Book of Heroes says. You want all kinds of cultivation techniques. Don't you think you are a little greedy? You know the thunder escape technique and have cultivated it to the extreme. Why do you want my wind escape technique? Don't tell me you still want to cultivate the wind escape technique. Hee, stones from other mountains can help jade. Xiao Hua smiled and said, I just want to refer to other escape techniques to better cultivate the thunder escape technique. Is that really the case? Fairy Xing Yu asked with a smile, as if she had a better understanding of Xiao Hua's character. Xiao Hua said seriously, of course. How could I lie to Fairy? Haven't you lied to me before? Fairy Xing Yu curled her lips and said, along the way. Haven't you been lying to me? Since his purpose had been exposed, Xiao Hua might as well pester her. He replied righteously, impossible. Absolutely impossible. Forget it. Fairy Xing Yu waved her hand and said, Su Ji has given you enough cultivation techniques. You don't have to insist on my wind escape technique. When Su Ji comes, I will ask him. Thank you, Fairy. Xiao Hua hurriedly thanked her and then scanned the surroundings with his divine sense. He said, so Fairy and Senior Su agreed to meet here. Yes, this place is called Qingyun Ridge. In the early years, I came here with Su Ji to search for traces of Xingyue Palace, so I am very familiar with this place. We agreed to meet here and then go to Chitty River together. Fairy Xingyu said as she flew into the mountain range with great familiarity. Chitty River? Xiao Hua was shocked and said anxiously, Fairy, are you saying that Xingyue Palace appeared near Chitty River this time? Yes. Fairy Xingyu answered and flew into the foothills. There was a waterfall that was thousands of feet in size hanging on the mountain wall. The surging blue water flowed out of the foothills in a magnificent manner and went straight down thousands of feet. Then, it crashed into the pool in the mountain stream. The waterfall hit the rocks on the stone wall and rushed into the deep pool. The sound of the water was so loud that it seemed to drown out all the sounds in the world. Fairy Xingyu landed on a mountain ridge opposite the waterfall. There were several huge rocks flashing in the light of the water. Fairy Xingyu sat cross-legged on one of the huge rocks. Then, she faced the sky, as if she was meditating. Xiao Hua released his divine sense to scan the surroundings. Other than a few ordinary birds and beasts, there were no other demon clan members. He could only fly to another huge rock. Before his figure could land, an extremely cold qi rushed over from the huge rock. Oh! Xiao Hua took a closer look and thought, it turns out that these are rare cold ice jades. I don't know if they were born here or if they were left here by Senior Su and Fairy Xingyu. Then, Xiao Hua also sat down cross-legged. A gust of cold qi rushed straight into his body. While Xiao Hua activated his cultivation method to refine it, his eyes were rolling rapidly. He was thinking about how to get the wind escape skill from Fairy Xingyu. On this day, there was a rainstorm. Wild water droplets poured down like the Milky Way, covering the sky and the earth. In addition to the darkness in the sky, there was a faint layer of watery light. It was somewhat similar to the heavy water disaster in the untainted land. The world was covered by rain. The waterfall on the mountain ridge was even more devastating. The water was several times stronger than before, almost covering all the mountains that Xiao Hua could see with the naked eye. The pool in the mountain stream had been filled. The water rushed into the distance along the mountain stream, looking similar to a mountain flood. Fairy Xingyu and Xiao Hua were naturally not afraid of the rain. There was not a single drop of rain falling within a radius of 1,000 feet around them. However, at this time, Xiao Hua did not close his eyes to meditate like Fairy Xingyu. He had already opened his eyes. Looking at the rapid water flow, he released his divine sense and explored the surrounding water. Oh! Suddenly, Xiao Hua made a sound and looked sideways. Almost at the same time, Fairy Xingyu also opened her eyes and looked in the same direction. In just a moment, a divine sense as vast as the sea of smoke swept over from the rain. When it fell on the two of them, it immediately withdrew. Immediately after, all the raindrops within a radius of 100 miles suddenly exploded at the same time. Amidst the popping sounds, the raindrops once again shone with innumerable splendor. When the splendor flashed, the world suddenly fell silent again. Even the sound of the waterfall had disappeared. Woo! In the void, a watery light suddenly appeared. All the water droplets within 100 miles were filled with this watery light. All the water droplets that came into contact with the watery light emitted a strange vibration, gathering towards the sky. In the end, a transparent human figure was revealed. Wasn't that the peerless beauty Dou Shanjun? As soon as Dou Shanjun's appearance was revealed, his starry eyes moved slightly. As if adding the finishing touch, the transparent watery human figure was immediately colored. A living cultivator stepped out of the rain. However, at this time, Dou Shanjun was no longer dressed like a Confucian cultivator. Instead, he was dressed in a Taoist robe and had an extraordinary temperament. As Dou Shanjun's figure moved, the space within a radius of 100 miles began to move. Even the raindrops began to fall violently again. Xiao Hua. Dou Shanjun's gaze fell on Xiao Hua. He said in surprise, You have already cultivated to the Mahayana realm? How is this possible? Xiaohua did not dare to be negligent. He had already stood up before Do Shan Jun's figure appeared. At this time, he hurriedly moved forward and bowed. Junior greets Senior Su. Oh, it seems that Fairy Xingyu couldn't hold back and told you everything before I came. Su Ji was not surprised. He glanced at Fairy Xingyu, who was still sitting cross-legged on the ice jade, and said. No. Xiaohua said with a smile, Fairy Xingyu only told me your real name. I'm still waiting for you to come over and explain everything to me. Humph, did you hear that? I didn't reveal anything about you. Don't wrongly accuse me like last time. Fairy Xingyu opened her eyes and said with a cold snort. There was no special expression on his face, which was far from the expression he had when he was with Xiaohua. Su Ji responded and flew to a cold ice jade to sit down. He looked at Xiaohua and said, Did you get the jade eyes I left for you? I got it. Xiaohua nodded and replied, Senior's divination technique is really amazing. You can actually predict what will happen 200 years later. I'm ashamed. Su Ji shook his head and said, I only know a little about divination. How could I be so clear about what will happen 200 years later? That day, I was just on a whim. I knew that you had some relationship with the Luo Yi Merchant Alliance, so I gave the jade eyes to the demon clan named Ingpa. Chapter 44-45. Xiaohua naturally knew that Su Ji was being modest. Just as he was about to speak, Fairy Xingyu said sarcastically, I knew you would say that. You've only been a judge of the academy for a few days and you've already learned how to be hypocritical. If you didn't know what would happen today, how could you have given the jade eyes to that demon? I didn't say that I didn't foresee what would happen today. I just said that I didn't foresee it so clearly. Su Ji was not angry and only answered lightly. His tone, coupled with his otherworldly temperament, gave birth to an indescribable arrogance. Humph, you're just a hypocrite. Fairy Xingyu said rudely. She snorted to show her disdain. Her expression was no different from that of a little girl who was quarreling in the secular world. Unfortunately, Su Ji did not take the bait. He ignored Fairy Xingyu and continued to look at Xiaohua. Xiaohua, I think Fairy Xingyu has already made it very clear to you. This trip to the Star Moon Palace is very important to us. Of course, for you, it should also be a great opportunity. I think that since this is the case, we shouldn't hide anything from each other. Even if we don't gain anything from this trip to the Star Moon Palace, in the future, among the cultivators on the 3 continents who can stand shoulder to shoulder with us. You're the only one who can catch our attention. Therefore, we should face each other openly and honestly. Unlucky, unlucky. Before Su Ji could finish speaking, Fairy Xingyu, who was next to him, cursed a few times. Then, she spat on the ground and said, You haven't even seen the Star Moon Palace and you're already saying such unlucky things. Could it be, that you're cursing? No. Su Ji glanced at Fairy Xingyu and said, I'm just telling the truth. Xiaohua, who was watching from the side, was overjoyed. Xiaohua understood Fairy Xingyu's thoughts and actions very well. However, Su Ji just didn't cooperate. Xiaohua didn't know if he was really unromantic or if he didn't have Fairy Xingyu in his heart. Of course, the more the two of them acted like this, the more relieved Xiaohua was. After all, such a person's mind was relatively pure and would not be very calculative. Su Ji looked at Xiaohua again and said, That day at Black Wind Ridge, I already used a secret technique to carefully examine your cultivation. There was absolutely no sign of damage, so it's impossible for you to have recovered your cultivation in the past 200 years. Then here comes the problem. Xiaohua, I have never heard of or seen any records of a human cultivator being able to advance from the spirit severing stage in 200 years. If we use the strength standards of the 3 continents, it should be from the 5th level of essence energy directly to the 9th level of essence energy. I've already said this before. Fairy Xingyu seized the opportunity to speak. He just won't admit it. So, Xiaohua. Su Ji ignored Fairy Xingyue and asked Xiaohua, can you tell me what happened in the past 200 years? Humph. Fairy Xingyue looked at Su Ji angrily and said, I've already told Xiaohua. If it weren't for the agreement with you, he would have told me. Xiaohua finally spoke. He smiled and said, Senior Su, could it be that the Star Moon Palace is very important to you? Of course it's important. Su Ji glanced at Fairy Xingyue and answered. Then it seems that my cultivation level is also very important to our trip to the Star Moon Palace this time. That's right. Su Ji nodded again. There's a place in the Star Moon Palace that requires the power of thunder. I'm not strong enough, so I need to borrow your cultivation level. Previously, your strength was only at the 5th level of essence energy and could not help me much. Therefore, besides you, I also found a few others. However, I never expected that you would actually be at the 9th level of essence energy. There's no need for those people to go. That's strange. Xiaohua asked, puzzled. I remember that when we were at the star-picking tower, Zhu Qing said very clearly that the Star Moon Palace is very useful for comprehending the power of the stars. Similarly, according to different cultivation methods, the opportunities are different. A Confucian cultivator can comprehend the heart of heaven and become a literary star, a demon king can sense the power of the stars and combine their physical bodies to become a great sage, a Taoist can break through the void and reach the realm of ascension. However, these opportunities are only for cultivators at the 7th or 8th level of essence energy. With my cultivation level, I'm afraid there's no point in entering the Star Moon Palace. Also, why does Senior value the Star Moon Palace so much? Why are you asking first? Fairy Xingyue glared at Xiaohua and said, didn't we agree? You tell us first and we'll tell you later. Su Ji nodded. Fairy Xingyue is right. The Star Moon Palace was originally discovered by Fairy Xingyue in the 3 continents. Her Xingyue was formed entirely to search for the Star Moon Palace. Our purpose of searching for the Star Moon Palace is different from the purpose of the cultivators from the 3 continents. Actually, we also want to see if we can find our own opportunities from the opportunities of these cultivators. As for what this opportunity is, Xiaohua, you're the first cultivator in the 3 continents who knows about it. I'm afraid you're also the only one. As he spoke, Su Ji raised his right hand. Boom! A huge roar sounded from the waterfall. The waterfall rushed up into the sky like 10,000 water dragons. As it roared in the air, it covered an area of several hundred miles around them. Su Ji raised his hand again and made a grabbing motion. Crack! The waterfall above the 3 of them immediately froze. This solidification rapidly spread in all directions. In just a few breaths, the water that covered a radius of several hundred miles froze. Layers of mysterious fluctuations slowly flowed on the surface of the solidified water. Xiaohua tried to release his divine thought, but the entire water flow was like a huge boundary. Not only did it block sound and aura, but his divine thought also could not pass through it. Looking at the foothills again, the rain was no longer raining. The water flowed slowly, and the green leaves and grass were sparkling with water droplets. It was a beautiful scene. Show off, show off. The corners of Fairy Xingyu's mouth curled up as she rolled her eyes at Su Ji. Then, with a flick of her finger, a speck of starlight fell on the water curtain. Whoosh! In an instant, the entire water curtain shone with starlight, as if a starry sky had enveloped the 3 of them. Hee hee, this is beautiful. Fairy Xingyu said with a smug smile. Su Ji's cold face was still the same. He turned to Xiaohua and said, Xiaohua, now you should tell me what happened in the past 200 years, right? Senior, would you believe me if I said that I was not in the 3 continents for the past 200 years? Xiao Hua asked with a smile. Nonsense. Of course, you were not in the 3 continents. Is there a need to ask? Fairy Xingyu continued, Su Ji and I used our magic, but we couldn't find you. How could you have been in the 3 continents? Senior, you should know where I was last seen, right? Xiao Hua was not in a hurry to answer. Instead, he looked at Fairy Xingyu and asked with a smile. Fairy Xingyu smiled proudly and said, of course. You were last seen at the River and Tide Temple in the Longevity Town. You even tried to stop. Oh, I understand. You were not trying to stop the sutra seeking of bliss held by the immortals and Buddhas. You were trying to stop that monk from taking down the Buddha roll. You actually know that unknown. Chun Zong. At the end of her sentence, Fairy Xingyu thought of how Xiao Hua had instructed the 2 demon kings to participate in the sutra seeking of bliss in the water wave demon realm. She immediately understood Xiao Hua's intentions and exclaimed in surprise. Su Ji was still as calm as ever. However, he raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Xiao Hua with a strange light in his eyes. The sutra seeking of bliss has nothing to do with us, right? Xiao Hua did not answer Fairy Xingyu's question. Instead, he shook his head and said, Fairy, don't think too much. Yes. Fairy Xingyu smiled slightly and said in surprise, the last place you were seen was the Longevity Town. It was the beginning of the sutra seeking of bliss. However, the River and Tide Temple was not the last place you appeared. You failed to stop Chun Zong from taking down the Buddha roll and then mysteriously disappeared. Dozens of days later, you suddenly flew out of the Liao River. At this time, there was a Confucian cultivator with the strength of a great grandmaster chasing after you. If I'm not mistaken, that Confucian cultivator should be the inspector of the Immortal Palace. He discovered that your Taoist cultivation had broken through the late stage of the nascent soul realm and was preparing to capture you and imprison you in the Immortal Palace. After that, you and that patrol inspector both disappeared without a trace. Later on, traces of you appeared in the hidden Immortal Continent and the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. This was also recorded in the Book of Heroes of Xingyu. However, when we discovered that the one suppressed in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm wasn't you, we deduced that the traces in these places were the work of that white dragon. Of course, Su Ji also went to the Immortal Palace. Although he carefully investigated, he did not find any trace of you being suppressed. He even found out that 5 inspectors of the Immortal Palace were killed during that time. They were Zhang Qing, Wu Han, Sun Zhong, Sun Cheng, and Zhong Xing. As for which one disappeared with you, I don't know. Hearing that Su Ji could find out the information about the inspector of the Immortal Palace, Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He wanted to ask Sun Hao, but when he thought about it, he couldn't help laughing. Sun Jian was the immortal Qingyuan of the Immortal Palace. Wouldn't it be 100 times more convenient for him to investigate Sun Hao than Su Ji? So he nodded and said, Fairy Xingyu is really insightful. Fairy Xingyu is right. I was discovered by the Confucian Great Grandmaster Sun Cheng in the Liao River. He chased after me from the Longevity Town. During that time, Wu Han and Sun Hao joined in. I risked my life to kill Wu Han, but was later forced to an unavoidable place by Sun Hao and Sun Cheng. Speaking of this, Xiao Hua smiled and asked, Fairy Xingyu, do you know where this place is? Oh. Where? In this world, there are too many unavoidable places. I don't know. Fairy Xingyu shook her head, which was rare. Oh. Xiao Hua asked curiously, did nothing special happen in the Immortal Palace during that time? Nothing special. Su Ji nodded. I entered the Immortal Palace's Hall of Enlightenment and read the heavenly policy of the Immortal Palace. I didn't find anything unusual. If what you said was unusual, or Immortal Emperor Gaochen deliberately concealed it, I'm afraid I couldn't find it. Chapter 44-46. Alas! Xiaohua sighed. He already understood that since Su Ji did not know that Sun Cheng and Wu Han had died in the Black Ruins Mountain, then the immortal soldiers and immortal generals that Sun Jian had stationed in the Black Ruins Mountain, must have been killed by Sun Hao. The immortal palace would definitely not leave such a thing in the Hall of Enlightenment. How could Su Ji have guessed that he would fall into the heavenly prison? Xiaohua looked at Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu and said word by word, Black Ruins Mountain. What? Hearing Xiaohua say the words Black Ruins Mountain, both Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu turned pale with fright. With a slight shake of their bodies, they actually flew up from the cold jade stone and cried out in a low voice, You actually fell into the heavenly prison? Yes. Xiaohua nodded. I was no match for Sun Cheng and Sun Hao. After risking my life to kill Sun Cheng, I was also thrown into the heavenly prison by Sun Hao. How is that possible? How is that possible? Fairy Xingyu said, How is that possible, twice in a row and cried out, You actually came out of the heavenly prison alive. There are actually people in this world. No, there are actually living creatures that can come out of the heavenly prison alive. This is truly inconceivable. Su Ji, who had always been calm, could not help but be excited. He suppressed his trembling voice and asked in a low voice, Xiaohua, quickly tell us, what is inside the heavenly prison? How did you escape from the heavenly prison? Alas! Xiaohua already had an excuse. He sighed and said, Seniors, it's not that I don't want to tell you what is inside, but I don't know what the real heavenly prison is. When I fell into the heavenly prison, it was pitch black. I couldn't see anything. My divine sense couldn't leave my body. I couldn't see with my naked eyes. There wasn't even a trace of sound. But occasionally, there would be some strange flashes of light. At the same time, there would also be some strange qi of heaven and earth. Oh, there would also be fluctuations similar to the thunder tribulation. Junior was drifting in the darkness. I originally wanted to die. But when I wanted to die, I couldn't activate my Dharma power and couldn't even move my body. Later, when there was qi of heaven and earth, I didn't want to die. Junior thought, since there is the qi of heaven and earth, I can cultivate. If I can cultivate to the level of immortal ascension, will I be able to escape from the heavenly prison with the help of the immortal ascension thunder tribulation? Therefore, during my time in the heavenly prison, I only focused on cultivation. Speaking of this, I have to thank Senior Su. If it weren't for Senior's cultivation methods, I wouldn't have been able to reach the Mahayana realm. And then? Su Ji was both excited and disappointed. He took a few deep breaths and asked calmly. The heavenly prison sometimes has world yuan qi, and sometimes it doesn't. Also, the fluctuations of the lightning tribulation are very rare. I have cultivated in the heavenly prison for 40,000 years, and barely reached the great ascension stage. Xiaohua continued, after reaching the grand ascension stage, Junior's heart is finally at ease. I just have to wait for another 10,000 years for the lightning tribulation to descend. But, just as I was cultivating, a strange spatial ripple appeared in the darkness. This ripple was even more powerful than a thunderbolt, and it tore apart the space around me. There was an extremely strong suction force in the spatial rift, and I couldn't avoid it before I was sucked in. Then, the huge impact knocked me out. When I woke up, I was already near the South Sea. What? You just came out of the heavenly prison? Fairy Xingyu was even more surprised. You're not lying to us, are you? Xiaohua smiled. He was actually testing Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu at this time, and he was also wondering if he should follow them to the Star Moon Palace. Yes. Xiaohua replied, it's that simple. When Junior returned to the South Sea, I found out that I had spent 40,000 years in the heavenly prison, and the 3 continents had only spent 200 years. Later, Junior heard about Qingbao's banquet, so I hurried to buy Qingyu. Then, I got Senior Su's jade eyes from Ingpa and immediately rushed to the Chitty River. Xiaohua didn't mention anything about his Fortune Gate disciples, but he also believed that neither the South Sea Dragon Palace nor Bai Qingyu's matter would reach Fairy Xingyu's ears for the time being. Firstly, the South Sea Dragon Palace was a disgrace to the dragon palaces of the Four Seas, so they would definitely keep their mouths shut. Even if it was leaked, it wouldn't be known by Zhai Xinglu in a short period of time. Secondly, although Bai Qingyu's matter was sensational, it happened very recently. Not to mention that the Seven Stars Great Saint's news would cover up Bai Qingyu's matter. Even if Zhai Xinglu got the news, it might not be delivered to Fairy Xingyu so quickly. Thirdly, Zhai Xinglu of the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm had almost disappeared. The entire Star Moon Palace was busy with the Star Moon Palace, so Bai Qingyu's matter wouldn't attract their attention for the time being. Of course, Fairy Xingyu and Su Ji would definitely know about this after the Star Moon Palace, but which cultivator didn't have secrets? Since Xiaohua had told them about the heavenly prison, he believed that they wouldn't pester him anymore. Impossible, it can't be that simple. Fairy Xingyu didn't believe it as expected. It's not like I haven't been to the Black Ruins Mountain. Even Su Ji and I don't dare to go in. How could you come out so easily? Moreover, the Black Ruins Mountain has existed for so many years. I've never heard of anyone going in and coming out alive. Hee, Fairy, if you didn't ask, would I have told you? If I didn't tell you, who would know that I came out of the heavenly prison alive? Xiaohua retorted with a smile. In short, I don't believe that you can come out so easily. Fairy Xingyu shook her head and said, if you're not too lucky, then you're lying to us. No, you must be lying to us. There's no essence qi of heaven and earth in the heavenly prison. Even immortals can't survive there. How could you cultivate there? Xiaohua's face showed a meaningful smile as he asked, Fairy, are you an immortal? Have you been to the heavenly prison before? Xingyue. Su Ji, who had been silent, suddenly spoke. Don't forget that there's the Star Moon Palace in the 3 continents. What's wrong with the Star Moon Palace? What does this have to do with the Star Moon Palace? Fairy Xingyu was stunned and somewhat puzzled. Su Ji explained, the Star Moon Palace is about to appear soon. Isn't it similar to the time when Xiaohua escaped? Hiss. Fairy Xingyu sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Xiaohua in disbelief. She said, if that's the case, then it's really possible. Xiaohua, your luck is really that good? If I claim to be the second luckiest in the world, I'm afraid no one would dare to claim to be the first. Xiaohua shrugged his shoulders and replied in all seriousness, Junior's biggest weakness is that my luck is too good. Ha ha ha. Fairy Xingyu covered her mouth and laughed until she was trembling. After a while, she said breathlessly, you're really too glib-tongued. No wonder Princess Baihua had a good impression of you after seeing you once. On the other hand, Su Ji looked at Xiaohua and said, your experience is truly inconceivable. We forced you to tell us about the heavenly prison in the Black Ruins Mountain. You can't tell other cultivators about it in the future. Oh. Why? Xiaohua was stunned and felt warmth in his heart. He could hear trust and concern in Su Ji's words. No one knows what the heavenly prison is. Any cultivator knows that once they enter the heavenly prison, there's no way out. Therefore, no one dares to go near the Black Ruins Mountain. However, if they know that someone can survive in the Black Ruins Mountain and cultivate there for 10,000 years, which is only equivalent to 100 years in the 3 continents, even if they know that the chances of survival are very small, they'll still rush into the Black Ruins Mountain. Su Ji said earnestly, think about it. If a Dao sect cultivator who's only a nascent soul cultivator enters the Black Ruins Mountain and comes out as a human Mahayana cultivator, how many cultivators can resist such temptation? Yes, I understand. Xiaohua bowed and said, after today, I won't mention this again. Also. Su Ji said again, stay away from the Black Ruins Mountain in the future. According to what I know, the Black Ruins Mountain isn't something from the 3 continents. Or rather, the heavenly prison should be, a space where the chaos divine realm fell into the 3 continents. The time in the heavenly prison is different from the time in the 3 continents. There might even be many different times and spaces in the heavenly prison, like layers and layers of willow catkins. And at the root of this space, there might be a trace of connection with the chaos divine realm. Of course, once this connection disappears, the entire Black Ruins Mountain and the entire heavenly prison will be completely destroyed. Don't think that after going in and coming out, you'll get greedy again. I'll be honest with you. This time, your luck is too good. The Star Moon Palace just happened to pass by the space where the heavenly prison is, and that's why you were brought out. Otherwise, even if you cultivated to the Ascension realm, the heavenly tribulation wouldn't be born in the heavenly prison. Yes. The more Su Ji said this, the more relieved and happy Xiao Hua was. He nodded and said, I understand. Actually, my days in the heavenly prison were miserable beyond words. Other than darkness, there was only darkness. I even had thoughts of dying. I definitely won't try that kind of inhuman life again. Senior, please don't worry. At this point, Xiao Hua was suddenly shocked again. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Su Ji's words made him think of the transportation passage from the Chaos Divine Realm to the Great Snow Mountain. After all, the Chaos Divine Realm was the upper realm. It was far from the 3 continents. Xiao Hua didn't know how many realms there were in between. If there wasn't any special opportunity, he definitely wouldn't be able to return to the 3 continents from the upper realm. Unless, as Su Ji said, there was an opportunity like the Star Moon Palace that could tear the heavenly prison apart. Therefore, Xiao Hua hurriedly asked, That's right, Senior Su. You said that the Star Moon Palace's appearance could tear the heavenly prison apart. What's going on with the Star Moon Palace? Isn't the Star Moon Palace an ancient relic of the 3 continents? Chapter 44-47. Hee hee. Fairy Xingyu laughed again. Don't worry. Let's finish your story first. It won't be too late to tell you later. What else do you want to know? Didn't I tell you everything? Xiao Hua looked innocent, as if he had been wronged. Su Ji asked, Xiao Hua, are you from the 3 continents? When I was preparing to give you the cultivation method and other things, I did check all the Dao sect cultivators in the 3 continents, but I couldn't find your origin no matter how hard I tried. It was as if you appeared in the longevity town out of thin air. Xiao Hua had already thought it through. He actually wanted to hide the matter of the West Sea, but he had met the Grand Mist Ancestor, so the matter of the West Sea could not be hidden from Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu. Moreover, Xiao Hua also had an extravagant hope in his heart. He wanted to get the method to return to the Dawn Rain continent from these 2 mysterious experts. Xiao Hua smiled and said, I appeared in the longevity town out of thin air, but, the first time I appeared in the 3 continents was not in the longevity town, but in, the West Sea. The West Sea. You are really not a human from the 3 continents. Fairy Xingyu felt a little strange, but she replied with certainty, Su Ji, see, I'm right. Yes, I'm from the Dawn Rain continent. A rogue cultivator. Xiao Hua wanted to say that he was a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect, but he suddenly remembered that he had been expelled by the Imperial Thunder sect. He could not help but feel sour in his heart and changed his words to a rogue cultivator. Dawn Rain continent. Su Ji was stunned and thought for a while. He turned to look at Fairy Xingyu and asked curiously, Xingyu, why don't I know that there's a world called the Dawn Rain continent near the 3 continents? Yes. I don't know either. I've never heard of the name of this world. Fairy Xingyu was also at a loss. How can you not know? Su Ji asked faintly. Don't you claim to know everything? I just don't know. So what? Fairy Xingyu said rudely. Don't you also claim to know everything? Why don't you know? Hee, seniors. Xiao Hua smiled as he looked at the two experts flirting with each other. When Junior first arrived at the Western Ocean, he encountered an extremely interesting matter. Oh, what's the matter? Fairy Xingyu raised her eyebrows and asked curiously. Xiao Hua didn't answer him. Instead, he looked at Su Ji and said, presumably, Senior Su has already guessed it. If you didn't say it, I wouldn't have guessed it. Now that you've said it, of course I know. Su Ji immediately understood after hearing this. Unconsciously, a dark cloud appeared on his face. Fairy Xingyu was also a little surprised, but when she saw Su Ji's reaction, she immediately understood and said with a smile, I was wondering. The Grand Mist Ancestor was being suppressed in the West Sea's eye, so how could he escape? So it's you, the Jinx, who appeared. Yes, Junior met Master Qing Chen from the Pure Land of Ultimate Bliss, Master Leopard from the Thousand Beast Sacred Ground, Su Zhuoyang and Chu Muhuan from the Hidden Immortal Continent. They were invited by the Deputy Inspector of the West Sea Dragon Palace, Xian Cheng, to explore the West Sea Lost Treasure. When they saw that Junior's cultivation was good, they invited Junior along. However, the treasure map of the West Sea Lost Treasure was bait thrown out by the Grand Mist Ancestor. Other than Junior and Xian Cheng, the rest of the human and beast clans, and by Haojiao, who secretly followed Xian Cheng into the West Sea's eye, were all killed by the Great Array. When the Grand Mist Ancestor saw that Junior rescued him, he was afraid that Junior would reveal his whereabouts, so he threw Junior into the Great Array. Humph, Grand Mist Ancestor is a heartless person. Back then, Su Ji spent a lot of effort to cultivate him. Fairy Xingyu snorted coldly and said. However, before she could finish, Su Ji said, everyone has their own aspirations. We don't have to force others. Besides, he didn't promise us anything. Hearing Su Ji's words, Xiao Hua felt even more relieved. The Grand Mist Ancestor treated Su Ji so well. Even with Su Ji's strength, Su Ji didn't directly attack the Grand Mist Ancestor. Xiao Hua had helped Su Ji, so how could Su Ji scheme against him? Moreover, Fairy Xingyu had used Princess Baihua's body, and Princess Baihua's memory had a good impression of him. Therefore, Fairy Xingyu shouldn't harm him. Therefore, Xiao Hua had decided that no matter how difficult the trip to the Star Moon Palace was, he had to go. Humph, I can't stand seeing you like this. Fairy Xingyu snorted coldly again with an indifferent look on her face. However, the trace of admiration in her eyes revealed her true feelings. In your words, someone bought you, yet you're still helping them count their money. And then? Su Ji ignored Fairy Xingyu and asked Xiao Hua, how did you get out of trouble? The Grand Mist Ancestor was suppressed by the West Sea Eye. I had no choice but to fall into the West Sea Eye under the pressure of the Great Array. Then I rushed into an unknown place along the West Sea Eye. Later, I'm sorry, I fainted from the impact of the space pressure. When I woke up, I was in the Jiangqiao ridge of the Longevity Town. Xiao Hua's face turned slightly red. He wasn't lying, but he felt that he had lost face because he kept fainting. Su Ji didn't mind and looked at Fairy Xingyu. Fairy Xingyu nodded, Xiao Hua is right. In the Longevity Town's Liao River, there seems to be a Yuzhou cauldron set up by the Confucian Heavenly Court. There should be space meridians there. He might have been lucky and found the space meridian leading to the Longevity Town in the West Sea Eye. That's how he was sent to the Liao River. Fairy Xingyu looked at Xiao Hua and said, Xiao Hua, you're so lucky. I hope it's still useful in the Star Moon Palace. Of course. Xiao Hua says with a smile, since Senior Su treats this junior like this junior's good luck will naturally bring him. However, I also want to ask Fairy Xingyu and Senior Su a question. Oh, go ahead. When we know, we'll definitely tell you. Su Ji answered without hesitation. I just want to know if there's a space meridian leading to the Dawn Rain continent from the 3 continents. Although Fairy Xingyu had said that she didn't know about the Dawn Rain continent, he still didn't want to give up. Fairy Xingyu smiled bitterly. Xiao Hua, didn't I say it before? It's not that we don't want to help you, but the problem is that we don't know which realm the Dawn Rain continent is. How can we help you? Xiao Hua looked at Su Ji, unwilling to give up, and asked, Senior, if possible, can you think about it again? If Xingyue says she doesn't know, then she really doesn't know. Su Ji shook his head and said, Of course, the name of the realm we know may be different from the name you mentioned. Without waiting for Su Ji to finish speaking, Fairy Xingyu smiled and said, Xiao Hua, you're now a human Mahayana realm cultivator, and your strength has reached the upper stage of the 9th grade of essence force. If there are no accidents, you will definitely ascend within 10,000 years or even several thousand years. Why do you have to return to the Dawn Rain continent? Could it be that you can't ascend in the hidden immortal continent? Although the immortal palace of the Confucian cultivators is powerful, with your character of not causing trouble, they won't make things too difficult for you. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. He naturally knew that he didn't need to spend thousands of years, let alone tens of thousands of years. Therefore, he wanted to find a way back to the Dawn Rain continent even more. He also knew that after he ascended, he would probably have no chance to return to the Dawn Rain continent. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and said, Although I'm a rogue cultivator, I have a beautiful memory in the Imperial Thunder sect of the Dawn Rain continent. Then Xiao Hua roughly explained the matter of the Imperial Thunder sect, and finally said, My master had no choice but to sacrifice his life for me, and Xue Xue also sacrificed her life for me. My other dual cultivation partner still doesn't know whether I'm dead or alive. I feel that if I don't return to the Dawn Rain continent, I won't be able to get rid of the lingering thoughts in my heart. That's right. Fairy Xingyu gnashed her teeth and said, You just have to go back and let that snobbish Imperial Thunder sect see that the disciple they expelled is now a Mahayana realm cultivator. A peerless genius who cultivated from the nascent soul realm to the Mahayana realm in just 200 years. Let them regret it until their intestines turn green. However, at this point, she glared at Xiao Hua again and said, As for that jealous fairy Hongxia, it's fine if you don't look for her. I think that little girl Xue Xue is still a good choice. Alas, it's a pity that she's already dead. Fairy Hongxia took advantage of her for nothing. Su Ji pondered for a moment and said, Let's go and see the senior brothers in the Myriad Thunder Valley. Your senior brother Xiang Yang is excellent. You also think of your senior brother in the Punishment Palace? Fairy Xingyu asked gently. Not the senior brother in the Punishment Palace. Su Ji looked into the distance and said, It's an elder brother in my hometown. When Fairy Xingyu heard this, there was a trace of nostalgia in her eyes. She whispered, That's an extremely distant memory. Xiao Hua naturally knew that their hometown was a secret in the hearts of Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu. He didn't dare to ask more and just watched from the side. After a few minutes, Su Ji withdrew his gaze from the distance and looked at Fairy Xingyu and said seriously, Xingyue, since we can't return to our hometown, why don't you help Xiao Hua? Your law palace must have records of the 3 continents and the surrounding realms. You might as well think of Xiao Hua. Yes, I know. Fairy Xingyu nodded and said, Although this matter is forbidden in the law palace, I don't think Celestial Master of Law will know about this, right? Su Ji blinked his eyes and said with a smile, Of course not. Fairy Xingyu's face turned slightly red. She looked up at Xiao Hua and asked, Xiao Hua, first tell me what's so special about the Dawn Rain continent. Also, what was the situation when you came from the Dawn Rain continent to the 3 continents? You didn't faint in the space passage again, did you? I didn't faint this time. Xiao Hua said with a smile, I remember the situation in the space passage clearly. Okay, tell me about the situation in the Dawn Rain continent. Fairy Xingyu nodded and asked. Chapter 44-48. After Xiaohua finished explaining the situation of the Dawn Rain continent, Fairy Xingyu and Su Ji were both surprised. Su Ji asked, "What? You said that there are only Taoist cultivators in the Dawn Rain continent. Oh, there are also sword cultivators and beast cultivators. There are no Confucian cultivators or Buddhist cultivators. There are no demon clans. Yes, there are no traces of Confucian cultivators. There are only Buddhist cultivators." Xiaohua nodded. According to legend, there were Confucian cultivators and Buddhist cultivators in ancient times, but they were all killed by our Taoist cultivators. Impossible. Fairy Xingyu shook her head without hesitation. There is no such realm nearby. Maybe. Su Ji thought for a moment and said, Xiaohua's cultivation was not high enough, and he might not have experienced many places, so he couldn't have seen the whole Dawn Rain continent. Yes, yes. Xiaohua nodded and said, in the northwest of the Dawn Rain continent, there are so-called soul cultivators who cultivate the 12 great gods. On the other side of the Million Mountains, there seems to be a place called Defeat League. See, you're talking about soul cultivators. Soul cultivators of the 12 great gods. Fairy Xingyu exclaimed, and her face showed even more surprise. Impossible. That's absolutely impossible. What's impossible? Su Ji was also stunned. He looked at Xiaohua and then at Fairy Xingyu and asked curiously, what are the 12 great gods? What is a soul cultivator? Remember. Fairy Xingyu's face showed a rare look of horror. She said, you must never mention the 12 great gods and soul cultivators in the future. If you still want to live and not be hunted down by the celestial venerables. Su Ji already understood and nodded. I understand. This is a forbidden power. Then he looked at Xiaohua and said very seriously, Xiaohua. Can you remember? Yes, I understand. From this moment on, I have completely forgotten about the great gods and soul cultivators. Xiaohua's heart trembled and he hurriedly replied. However, he was extremely bitter in his heart. When he was on the Dawn Rain continent, he was afraid of being hunted down by Taoists. When he was on the 3 continents, he was also hunted down by Confucian cultivators. Now that he had finally reached the Grand Ascension stage, he was also afraid of being hunted down by the so-called celestial venerables, just because he was a soul cultivator. Alright, Xiaohua, tell me more about the spatial meridian you passed through. Fairy Xingyu asked solemnly. As far as I can remember, there is absolutely no such space vein. It shouldn't be a spatial vein. Xiaohua hesitated for a moment before saying, Junior feels that it's a few layers of innate restrictions. You. Hearing this, Fairy Xingyu almost jumped up from the ice jade. She looked at Xiaohua in disbelief and said, you actually passed the Great Meru Buddhist Formation, the 5 Elements Destruction Formation, and the Clear Song of Time Demon Formation? This, how is this possible? Fairy, so you actually know the names of these innate formations. Xiaohua was overjoyed and said anxiously, isn't Junior just lucky? Bullshit luck. Fairy Xingyu sat down dejectedly and looked at Su Ji. Why don't you and I have such good luck? Xingyu. Su Ji was obviously confused. He asked curiously, what are you talking about? Why can't I understand? It's right that you don't understand. Fairy Xingyu looked at Su Ji and forced a smile. If you knew, you wouldn't be alive now. Su Ji nodded and did not ask any more questions. After a full 10 minutes, Fairy Xingyu asked again, Xiaohua, tell me in detail, all right. Xiaohua nodded and told her the story. Finally, he said, Junior went from the Guihe Sea, east of the Dawn Rain continent, to the West Sea of the 3 continents. However, in the end, I still fainted. I don't remember where I was in the West Sea. You don't have to regret it. Even if you didn't faint, you definitely wouldn't be able to find that passage again. Fairy Xingyue said with fear on her face. Didn't I say just now? There's the Great Meru Buddhist formation of the Buddhist sect inside. The passage is so big when you go in, but from the outside, it's smaller than the eye of a needle. The naked eye, Buddhist consciousness, divine thought, eye-clearing technique, and so on can't detect it. Only the 3 Buddha lords of the Buddhist sect can see it. Moreover, it said that you have to reach the golden body 6th refinement stage or above. Also, the passage you passed through only exists temporarily. It must have disappeared by now. Xiao Hua, I can tell you seriously that you definitely won't be able to return to the Dawn Rain continent, even if you're lucky enough to escape from the heaven prison. Hearing Fairy Xingyue's words, Xiao Hua's heart turned cold. He asked helplessly, Fairy, is there really no way at all? Yes. Fairy Xingyue nodded. Because even Su Ji and I can't find the flaws of the 3 divine prohibitions and safely pass through the Song of Time demon formation, let alone you. Just give up. Sigh, okay. Xiao Hua sighed. He also understood that if it wasn't impossible, Fairy Xingyue wouldn't say such a thing. Xiao Hua. Su Ji also said, even I don't know about this. It can be seen how secretive this matter is in the immortal world. You must remember it. Yes, this junior understands. Xiao Hua answered casually, but he was stunned in an instant. He said in surprise, what? Immortal. Immortal world? Aren't the 2 seniors from the 10,000 demon realm? Humph, what do we have to do with the 10,000 demon realm? Fairy Xingyue looked at Xiao Hua's surprise and snorted coldly. The 10,000 demon realm has everything. There's the spirit clan, the demon clan, and the divine clan, but there's no human clan. Su Ji and I are real humans. How can we be from the 10,000 demon realm? But are the seniors really from the immortal world? Xiao Hua still couldn't believe it. Isn't it impossible for the immortals from the immortal world to return to the cultivation world? It's impossible to return to the cultivation world normally. Su Ji explained, occasionally, there will be abnormal returns. But as long as they fall into the cultivation world, it will be extremely difficult to return to the immortal world again. TSK. Fairy Xingyue curled her lips and looked at Su Ji. Don't be fooled by him. You gave him so many cultivation methods. I don't believe that he can't guess that you're from the immortal world. Xiao Hua shook his head and said, this junior did have this idea, but the problem is that I don't think any immortals can come to the 3 continents, so I can only guess that they're from the 10,000 demon realm. You can return to the 3 continents through the space crack of the heavenly prison. Why can't we? Fairy Xingyue was even more skeptical. Xiao Hua looked at Fairy Xingyue, who was only at the nascent soul stage. He really couldn't associate her with the immortals in his mind. He smiled bitterly and said, then, what kind of immortals are you? What's your purpose in coming to the 3 continents? What's the immortal world like? Su Ji glanced at Xiao Hua and said faintly, we have no right to tell you what the immortal world is like. Anyway, you'll soon ascend and you'll know in the future. I'm sure you know that there are many things that you shouldn't know until the time is right. This won't be good for you, me, or even Xingyue. It'll even be good for the cultivators of the 3 continents. Okay. Xiao Hua was helpless. In fact, what Su Ji said was right. There were many things that he would never tell Lu Yi and other disciples in advance, so as not to cause too many unforeseen events. He could only nod and say, Senior, please tell me what you can. My name is Su Ji. My Taoist name, it's not worth mentioning. Su Ji said, I'm the punishment envoy of a punishment palace in the immortal realm. My Taoist name is Fairy Xingyue. As for my real name, it's not worth mentioning. Fairy Xingyue, who was next to him, covered her mouth and smiled. She said as if she was talking to Su Ji, I'm the punishment envoy of a punishment palace in the immortal realm. When Xiao Hua heard this, he felt a headache coming. He smiled bitterly again and said, Seniors, this explanation doesn't seem to be any different from not explaining, right? Su Ji ignored him and said, when I was on a business trip, I happened to encounter a star field starburst in a celestial realm. The star field starburst covered a large area and affected several star fields in succession. I was preparing to escape when I sent a message to the punishment palace. But at that time, my punishment celestial weapon suddenly sensed the location of the immortal slaying stage in the immortal realm. This immortal slaying stage is what was recorded in the jade eyes I gave you at the beginning. Seeing that Xiao Hua was about to speak again, Su Ji hurriedly said, as for what the immortal slaying stage is and how it was lost, don't ask. I don't know either. Okay. Xiao Hua opened his mouth and closed it again. He thought to himself, since you don't want me to ask, I can't explain. Let's just leave it at that for now. Because the immortal slaying stage is very important to the immortal realm, I didn't dare to neglect it. I wanted to send a message to the punishment palace again, but the star field starburst was approaching. I didn't dare to stay for long. I hurriedly found a gap in the star field starburst and went to find it according to the celestial weapon of punishment. But before I found the immortal slaying stage, I met Fairy Xingyu. Su Ji glanced at Fairy Xingyu. Su Ji is the punishment envoy, the immortal envoy who carries out punishments. Fairy Xingyu continued, I am the punishment envoy. My duty is to control the immortal law and punish according to the law. Since I want to control the immortal law, I have to investigate all the star fields in the celestial realm. It's somewhat similar to the inspector in the immortal palaces of the three continents. When I met Su Ji, I received a secret order from the celestial venerable of justice. I was following the law to check some immortal restrictions in a certain celestial realm. I had just ascertained the situation of the immortal restrictions and was about to send a message to the celestial venerable. But at that time, I suddenly discovered that a Confucian cultivator from the heavenly court had barged into the immortal realm. This Confucian cultivator had become a demon and wanted to sacrifice the immortals in the star field. When I discovered this, the blood sacrifice had already begun. The stars began to explode one by one, gradually forming a terrifying star field starburst. I didn't dare to neglect it and hurriedly sent a message about the star field starburst to the Palace of Justice. Unfortunately, before I could send the message, I was discovered by the Confucian cultivator who had become a demon. That Confucian cultivator should have a cultivation level that was slightly higher than mine. I fought with him for a while and realized that I was no match for him. I hurriedly prepared to escape and ask for help. The Confucian cultivator pursued me step by step. Unable to escape, I risked my life to escape into the star field starburst. But the Confucian cultivator didn't care about his own life and chased after me. At that time, I met Su Ji. Chapter 44-49. Fairy Xingyu and I didn't know each other at first. Su Ji said again, but when I saw her being chased by the Confucian cultivator, I couldn't just leave her be, so I hurried forward to help. However, that Confucian cultivator was really powerful. Even when the two of us joined forces, he was not at a disadvantage. The two of us couldn't fight and retreat at the same time. We wanted to use the power of the star storm to kill him or escape. But in the end, we were forced to the center of the star storm. Seeing that we had no way out, Fairy Xingyu and I decided to perish together with the Confucian cultivator. That guy seemed to have lost his mind. He activated the celestial imperial equipment and directly fought with us. Under the huge impact and the star storm, Fairy Xingyu and I were seriously injured. From the space destroyed by the star storm, we fell to the three continents. Seeing that Xiao Hua was not surprised, Fairy Xingyu was a little depressed. She asked curiously, Xiao Hua, do you think we are lying to you? Xiao Hua shook his head lightly. No. I think you are telling the truth. This is no different from me falling into the heaven prison. That's true. Fairy Xingyu nodded. I was very surprised when I heard that the two of you were immortals. But if you think about it carefully, immortals can't easily return to the cultivation world. Since the two seniors have returned, there must have been an unforeseen event. As for what unforeseen event it is, the biggest possibility is that it is similar to this junior's experience. Xiao Hua explained. Using myself as an example, this junior understands. After arriving at the three continents, we naturally had to determine the realm we were in. Su Ji didn't think as much as Fairy Xingyu. He said, but when we found out that this was the essence qi of heaven and earth, not the immortal spirit qi of the immortal world, our hearts sank. So we didn't dare to think about anything else and began to heal ourselves. After our injuries were healed, we began to discuss how to get out of here. Alas, Su Ji sent some information back to the punishment palace. I only sent back news about the star storm. Speaking of what had happened back then, Fairy Xingyu was still a little regretful. And because of the star storm, we don't know if those messages could be received by the punishment palace and the punishment palace. However, seeing that there hasn't been any news for so many years, they probably haven't received it. Star Moon, that might not be the case. Su Ji comforted him. Perhaps they have already received it and are searching for it in the nearby star fields. How many star fields are there in an immortal domain, and how many realms are there under a star field? How many realms will be lost if the star storm destroys the star field? Fairy Xingyu smiled bitterly and shook her head. Even if the celestial venerative discipline personally searched, he might not be able to find it. Not to mention, I received a secret order. The Palm Palace doesn't even know that I'm in this nearby star region. Seniors, you can start cultivating again. Xiao Hua rolled his eyes and suggested in a low voice, as long as you cultivate to the grand ascension stage, you'll be able to ascend again soon, right? Unexpectedly, Fairy Xingyu immediately saw through Xiao Hua's thoughts and said, What? Do you want to find out the secret of ascension? I won't tell you. Su Ji looked at Xiao Hua and said, Do you think we don't want to? However, the so-called ascension is when the strength of a cultivator in the three continents reaches the highest level. The laws of the three continents no longer allow him to exist. Then, the laws of thunder will descend, which is the so-called thunder tribulation. The thunder tribulation will rewrite the laws of the cultivator. If the cultivator can't be rewritten by the laws, he will fail to pass the tribulation. The cultivator will disappear and become a part of the laws. If he is lucky enough to be rewritten by the laws, he will pass the tribulation successfully. The laws of the cultivator will be attracted by the laws of the immortal world and will go to the immortal world. To put it bluntly, the qi of heaven and earth in the cultivator's body will be changed into immortal qi by the thunder tribulation. This nascent immortal qi will be rejected by the qi of heaven and earth of the three continents. In each immortal realm of the immortal world, there is a corresponding spirit cleansing pool. The spirit cleansing pool attracts cultivators who have ascended. After the spirit cleansing pool solidifies the laws, the qi of heaven and earth in the cultivator's body will be completely cleansed and turned into immortal qi. They will become mortal fairies. At this point, seeing that Su Ji was about to continue, Fairy Xingyu quickly interrupted him and said, Although we are immortals, the immortal qi in our bodies has been cleansed by the spirit cleansing pool. Therefore, the spirit cleansing pool can't sense us, so we can't ascend. Hee hee. Xiao Hua laughed. Seniors, you can take over my body. The laws. Xiao Hua. Fairy Xingyu said with a smile, the so-called immortal qi is just an appearance. The most fundamental thing is that the laws have changed. There are probably not many immortals in the immortal world who know where the laws have changed. However, one thing is very clear. The soul must have the mark of the laws. Immortals can't ascend from the lower world again. Hiss. Although Fairy Xingyu and Su Ji deliberately avoided talking about ascension to avoid confusing Xiao Hua couldn't help but gasp when he heard this. Damn it, I'm afraid that little white dragon is in trouble. These doppelgangers of mine will also have problems. However, Xiao Hua thought for a moment and asked, although the two seniors can't ascend, but the two seniors can still cultivate disciples and let them pass the message to the Palace of Punishment and the Palace of Justice after they ascend. Fairy Xingyu rolled her eyes at him and said, do you think we don't want to? We have much more than you think that day. Su Ji explained, after we recovered from our injuries, we immediately searched for the realms and star regions where the 3 continents were located. However, when we saw that there were only Confucian cultivators, Buddhists, and the demon clan on the 3 continents, we were even more disappointed. Xingyue seemed to know some secrets. She said that this was the realm after the immortals and Buddhists had been destroyed. It also corresponded to this star region. I seem to have heard of the corresponding spirit cleansing pool in that star region. At this point, Su Ji's face showed a trace of embarrassment. He looked at Xiao Hua and said, I didn't want to tell you, but I have to tell you the truth. Of course, what I said to Xingyue is just some speculation and can't be taken seriously. I hope it won't affect your cultivation. Without needing Su Ji to say more, Xiao Hua nodded and said, is that spirit cleansing pool gone? The cultivators of the 3 continents can't ascend. How should I put it? Su Ji explained, the spirit cleansing pool still exists, but because it hasn't been used for a long time, I'm afraid it has been abandoned. Because I'm the punishment envoy of the punishment palace, I have some impression of the location of the spirit cleansing pool. That's how I know there is such a spirit cleansing pool. That's good. Xiao Hua breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, since there is still a spirit cleansing pool, that's good. After all, one can ascend. Actually, Su Ji wanted to explain, but Fairy Xingyu hurriedly said, Su Ji, didn't we already talk about this before? There are so many secrets of the immortal world. It's best if you don't know. Su Ji looked at Xiao Hua, thought for a moment and said, forget it. Since we're talking about this, it's better to make it clear and let him be prepared. Fairy Xingyu glared at Xiao Hua and could only keep quiet. Actually, if the spirit cleansing pool no longer exists, you can also ascend and even fly to other spirit cleansing pools. At the very least, you may appear near the spirit cleansing pool. At that time, you may face a powerful immortal beast. You may have a slim chance of survival. Su Ji said, but the spirit cleansing pool here is abandoned. If you ascend, you can only go to this spirit cleansing pool. And near this spirit cleansing pool, there are no immortal envoys from the immortal world. The one who may welcome you, is the immortal envoys of the heavenly court. Or you may encounter other immortal envoys of the heavenly court. Junior understands. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly and said, if you encounter an immortal beast, you may have a slim chance of survival. But if you encounter an immortal envoys of the heavenly court, I'm afraid there is no chance of survival. Indeed. Su Ji nodded. This is also the reason why we don't dare to act rashly. If the immortal envoys of the heavenly court know that we are in the 3 continents, we will also be hunted down by them. We will lose all hope of returning to the immortal world. At this point, Su Ji looked at Xiao Hua again and said seriously, of course, Xiao Hua, if you help me and Fairy Xingyu return to the immortal world, we will definitely find the corresponding spirit cleansing pool of the 3 continents. We will definitely not let you fall into the desperate situation you mentioned earlier. You can rest assured about this. Senior, don't worry. Junior also understands this matter. If I can help you, I will help myself. As long as I can do it, I will definitely do it. Suddenly, a smile appeared on Xiao Hua's face again. He. Junior has a good idea. I don't know if the 2 seniors are willing to listen. Ha. Fairy Xingyu laughed bitterly and said, you don't have to say any more. You are talking about the magic treasure in your hand, the Kunlun mirror, right? Senior. Xiao Hua was shocked and said anxiously, what other secrets do I have that you don't know? You didn't hide from others when you used the Kunlun mirror. How is that a secret? Fairy Xingyu glared at him and replied, besides, the Kunlun wonderland in the Kunlun mirror is not a secret. Su Ji said with a smile, Xiao Hua is also thinking for us. We should be happy. What? He wants the two of us to be his bodyguards. Does he think that I can't see what he is thinking? Fairy Xingyu saw through Xiao Hua's thoughts. Xiao Hua only smiled and did not say anything. His thoughts were about space. Of course, it was beyond Fairy Xingyu's expectations. All magic treasures have the foundation of casting, Su Ji explained with a smile. Su Ji explained with a smile, magic tools, magic treasures, and even spirit treasures used in the three continents can't be brought to the immortal world. Because in the thunder tribulation, anything that does not conform to the law of thunder will be obliterated. Famous ancient magic treasures like the Kunlun mirror and those heaven spiritual treasures can be brought to the immortal world, but the laws in these spiritual treasures will also be changed. For example, isn't the Kunlun wonderland in the Kunlun mirror? The Kunlun wonderland in the three continents is different from the one in the immortal world. If you take the Kunlun mirror to go through the tribulation, the Kunlun wonderland in it will be completely erased and then rebuilt with immortal qi. If you don't want to take the Kunlun mirror to go through the tribulation, it will not be able to follow you into the immortal world. Moreover, even if you use some secret technique to bring it up, as long as you take out the Kunlun mirror, the law of the immortal world will rebuild the Kunlun wonderland. Therefore, even if you take us into the Kunlun wonderland, we can only be obliterated and have no way to survive. Chapter 44-50. What about using the free time after the tribulation transcendence? Xiao Hua asked, unwilling to give up. At that time, the Kunlun immortal realm could not be built at all. How could you take us in? Seeing that Xiao Hua did not believe her, Fairy Xingyu was a little angry. Do you think we don't want to use your Kunlun mirror? All right. Xiao Hua's heart already felt a little more at ease, so he casually replied. Since Su Ji had said so, the Kunlun immortal realm and the Kunlun mirror had to be reconstructed due to the different spatial laws. However, Shenhua continent was not a Dharma artifact that he had refined. Shenhua continent was not affected by the laws of the ruins and the primitive continent. It was obviously an independent space. The rewriting of the laws that he had encountered during his ascension should not affect Shenhua continent. If he could ascend, he could naturally take Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu with him. However, Xiao Hua did not know how to persuade the two immortals to enter Shenhua continent. After all, in their hearts, the Kunlun immortal realm was a place where death was inevitable. Moreover, Xiao Hua did not know if his Shenhua continent could take in two immortals. There was still some time before his ascension, so he was not in a hurry to make things clear with the two immortals. Of course, Xiao Hua had already made up his mind. If possible, he had to take the two of them with him. Otherwise, even if he ascended, he would not be able to defeat the immortal officials of the heavenly court. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and said with a smile, the two of you are very unlucky. If you had landed in the Dawn Rain continent where I was, there would not have been so much trouble. That's not necessarily true. Fairy Xingyu pursed her lips. The immortal world is not a place of singing and dancing. Who knows who will get the news if we bring it up? If anything happens, we won't even know how we died. We might as well think of a way to go up ourselves. That's true. Xiao Hua agreed. Why don't you tell me how to return to the Dawn Rain continent? After I ascend, I will send the news of the two immortals to the Palace of Justice and the Palace of Punishment. Don't even think about it. That's impossible. Fairy Xingyu shook her head coldly. All right, just pretend that I didn't say anything. Xiao Hua was depressed. He looked at Fairy Xingyue helplessly and said with a smile, "It seems that it's impossible to enter the immortal realm again by relying on cultivation." Xiao Hua's words immediately conveyed his depression to Fairy Xingyue. She also replied gloomily, "Yes, the normal way of cultivation will definitely not work. Well, since I can't cultivate it, I can only go back to my original plan, which is to rely on the passageway. For example, the broken space of a primitive world like the heavenly prison." Xiao Hua nodded and said, "Then, I don't understand. Why are you two so painstakingly investigating the Star Moon Palace? Could it be that the Star Moon Palace is really an immortal palace that fell from the ancient immortal world? Even so, what was the use of a fallen palace? Unless there was a passageway leading to the immortal realm in the Star Moon Palace, but if there was..." Fairy Xingyu was a law envoy and had investigated all the star regions near the immortal realm. How could she not know about this passageway and not be able to find it? Moreover, Senior Su said that I was able to come out of the heavenly prison because of the appearance of the Star Moon Palace. How did Senior Su know? I don't know if there is a passageway in the Star Moon Palace. I have never heard of the Star Moon Palace in the Law Palace. Fairy Xingyu shook her head and said, "We only discovered the Star Moon Palace for the first time in the 3 continents. Then, how do you know that there is a passageway to the immortal realm in the Star Moon Palace?" Xiao Hua was even more puzzled. However, when he glanced at Su Ji, he understood and said with a smile, "Could it be Senior Su's divination skill again?" "That's right." Su Ji replied, "Whether there is a way to go to the immortal realm in the Star Moon Palace or a passageway to the immortal realm, Xingyue and I don't know. It's just that when we thought about it to no avail, I took the risk of my body collapsing and my soul dispersing to perform the divination skill. Although the art of divination only indicated a rough time and location, we saw the Star Moon Palace at the right place and in the right location. In the Star Moon Palace, we also found a starry sky with the aura of the immortal realm, so, we can only think that the Star Moon Palace is the only way to return to the immortal realm. Before us, there was no Star Moon Palace in the 3 continents. The name of the Star Moon Palace was given by me." Fairy Xingyu continued, "As for whether the palace called the Star Moon Palace appeared before us, we don't know. Moreover, from the information that Xingyue gathered in the 3 continents, there was no record of it. However, after we entered the Star Moon Palace for the first time and found the aura of the immortal realm, we couldn't find the original aura for the second time. Therefore, we had no choice but to spread the news of the Star Moon Palace to the 3 continents and set up the Star Moon Palace to search for it together. Obviously, there is strength in numbers. In the 4th and 5th times, we did find the starry sky where we found the aura of the immortal realm. However, because we couldn't find a way to go deeper, we were pushed out by the Star Moon Palace. However, other than you, there is no 4th person who knows the real purpose of this matter." "Yes, this junior understands." Xiao Hua nodded and looked at Su Ji. "Senior Su, can you tell this junior about the situation in the Star Moon Palace?" Su Ji looked at Fairy Xingyu. The two of them exchanged glances and nodded slightly. Then, Su Ji looked at Xiao Hua and said, "Actually, when I discussed with Fairy Xingyu about the internal affairs of the Star Moon Palace, I did not intend to tell you." "Oh. Why?" Xiao Hua was a little puzzled. "It's very simple." Su Ji smiled bitterly. "I have entered the Star Moon Palace a total of 8 times with Fairy Xingyu. Other than the fact that the outline of the Star Moon Palace was exactly the same when it appeared, everything inside was different. Only in a certain part of the starry sky could we see the aura of the immortal realm. In other places, other than the rumbling of thunder, there were some inexplicable starry sky and light silhouettes. These light silhouettes were very strange. They were different every time. Sometimes, they were sunken in different star shapes. Sometimes, they were some magical weapons. Sometimes, they were some mysterious lines. There were also times when they were actually some heads. There were many more on the left and right. Of course, just from the surface, it seemed that something like a token was needed to be placed inside to open the starry sky or light silhouettes. However, this so-called token was very strange. We searched the hidden immortal continent, the thousand demons' sacred realm, and the pure land but could not find it. Even though Fairy Xingyu controlled the stars and moons and could see all kinds of strange things every day, and every time we entered the Star Moon Palace, we were fully prepared. However, it seemed that something was missing every time. It was impossible to open the starry sky. In the end, to tell you the truth, even we felt despair. Therefore, if I told you about this situation, would you still help us wholeheartedly? If I were to deceive you with a lie, to be honest, I would not do it. Of course, in the Star Moon Palace, you can comprehend the power of the stars and moons at a higher level. I did not lie to the cultivators of the 3 continents about this. As for what they can comprehend from the power of the stars and moons, I do not know. Apart from this, are there any other dangers in the Star Moon Palace? Xiao Hua frowned and asked. Apart from the thunder, which is sometimes very strange and can shatter a cultivator's body so that even his soul cannot escape, there are also some unknown immortal beasts. Fairy Xingyu seemed to have a lingering fear as she said, these immortal beasts are extremely powerful. I have never heard of them before. If one encounters these immortal beasts, there is basically no chance of survival. There is also an even more inexplicable attack. It seems that there is a restriction in the void. Su Ji explained, if one encounters this attack, it seems that there is no way to avoid it. I have seen with my own eyes 4 demon clan members who were about the sun-devouring realm being annihilated by this restriction in an instant. Oh my! Xiao Hua was dumbfounded. So, it's completely based on luck. Yes, otherwise, how could I find you, the cultivator with the best luck in the world? Fairy Xingyu smiled and nodded. At first, I did not believe in Su Ji's divination skills, but after hearing that you were able to escape from the heaven prison, the hope of whether Su Ji and I can return to the immortal realm is on your shoulders. Xiao Hua curled his lips. Fairy, it is not that you do not believe in Senior Su's divination skills, but that you do not believe that I can help you. Speaking of this, Xiao Hua rolled his eyes again and said with a smile, Senior Su, how did you practice your divination skills? Why haven't I heard you mention it? I don't know what conclusion you have reached with your divination skills. Your jade eyes did not make it very clear. 1 thunder gives birth to 2 qis, and 2 qis give birth to all things. Understanding the evolution of thunder naturally allows one to practice divination skills. Su Ji did not hide it and explained, although you have cultivated the 10,000 June Thunderbolt, you still have not reached the level of practicing divination skills. Naturally, I will not tell you. In fact, what I can get from divination skills, is not much. It is similar to what was said in the Jade Eyes. That is to say, my chances are linked to yours. If I were to divine further, whether it is me, Goddess Xingyue, or Xingyue Palace, there would be no more traces. Therefore, this trip is the last chance. Either I succeed, or... When he spoke up to here, Su Ji was unable to continue. There seemed to be some secrets hidden within those cold lines that were like iron and stone. Clap, clap, clap. Xiao Hua smiled and clapped his hands. Do you still need to say it? Of course, it was a success. If it was not a success, how could it not be possible for the divination to fail? Senior Su, you are too careful. Don't worry, the so-called luck of a Confucian cultivator is just a breath of my qi. Is this kind of luck not enough for me to fart? With my help, how could it not be a success? That's good. Su Ji squeezed out a rare smile on his face. Chapter 44-51. If that's the case. Xiao Hua's face showed a trace of slyness again. He smiled and said, I want to ask another question. What kind of evil idea do you have now? Fairy Xingyu asked warily. Nothing. Xiaohua blinked and said, we cultivators of the cultivation world can't bring anything with us when we ascend to the immortal world. Then what about the seniors who came to the cultivation world from the immortal world? He he. Fairy Xingyu seemed to understand what Xiaohua meant and said with a smile, the same Stygian immortal slip can naturally be used. Ordinary immortal weapons will have their power reduced due to different nomological laws, but they can still be used. Seniors can't use the ink immortal slip for a long time. Xiaohua finally revealed his real purpose. They must have recorded the cultivation methods, secret techniques, pill formulas, etc., in the jade eyes or ink cloud eyes. Seniors can't bring these things to the immortal world. In that case, you might as well give them to me for safekeeping. Xiaohua, you money grubber. Fairy Xingyu couldn't help laughing and said, Su Ji, you don't know. He asked about my wind escape technique on the way and wanted me to pass it on to him. Why not? Su Ji replied faintly, he's right. We can't take it away anyway. It's rare to meet such a Taoist cultivator who cares about the people of the world. Although this kind of weirdo is a little petty, he's better than those who don't take the lives of the people seriously. With that, Su Ji raised his hand without hesitation, took out a dozen sumaru rings from his arms and handed them to Xiaohua. He said, these are the cultivation methods and the things I've collected. I'll give them all to you. Who knows if these things can be kept when we pass through the space channel? It's better to give them to you. Ah. Ha ha ha. Xiaohua was ecstatic. He took the sumaru rings and couldn't close his mouth. He laughed and said, thank you, senior. Thank you. However, when he scanned it with his divine sense, he was stunned. There were not only ink cloud eyes and jade eyes, but also strange things. They were the ink immortal slips that Fairy Xingyu mentioned. And there were many of them. Senior. Xiaohua was dumbfounded and whispered, it's all right, you can keep it for now. Su Ji didn't wait for Xiaohua to finish and said, I know you like strange things. You can think about it. Anyway, it wasn't taught by this Su. If you can learn something from it, it might be good for you. Yes. Xiaohua felt a burst of warmth in his heart. How could he not know Su Ji's intention of nurturing him? He hurriedly responded and put everything away. Xingyue, you belong to the Palace of Justice and no more secrets. Just give the wind escape technique to Xiaohua. There's no need for anything else. Su Ji looked at Fairy Xingyue and whispered. She seemed to be angry with Su Ji. Before Su Ji could finish, Fairy Xingyue said coldly, you are so generous. Doesn't the Punishment Palace have any secrets? You even dared to teach Xiaohua the 30,000 June Thunderbolt, so why wouldn't I dare? Here. Fairy Xingyu was even more amazing. She had taken out dozens of spatial rings. Xiaohua's eyes were dazzled. How could Xiaohua dare to take it? He hurriedly waved his hand and said, Fairy, forget it. Senior Su has given me enough. I don't want these. Are you looking down on me? Fairy Xingyu asked, glancing at him. Xiaohua hurriedly replied, no, no. Didn't Senior Su say that? There are many secrets in the Palace of Justice. I'm afraid of getting into trouble. Who told you that I gave you something from the Palace of Justice? Fairy Xingyu scolded with a smile. Xingyue comes into contact with all kinds of strange things almost every day. I've been in charge of Xingyue for so many years. Don't tell me I don't have some secret techniques. Really? Xiaohua was overjoyed. With a sweep of his divine consciousness, the dozens of spatial rings immediately disappeared from his eyes. You are really a miser. Fairy Xingyu couldn't help but laugh again. She looked at Su Ji and said, I've been with Su Ji in the 3 continents for so long. Except for that treacherous Hong Meng, we haven't taken in any disciples. We have some things to teach you, but first, there's not enough time. Second, there's nothing to teach in the 3 continents. If there's a chance, we'll talk about it when we reach the immortal world. Yes, thank you, seniors. Xiao Hua was overjoyed again. Su Ji raised his hand and patted Xiao Hua on the shoulder, saying, "My name and Xingyue's name won't change. When you arrive in the immortal realm, you can come to us. You're a rogue cultivator and don't have any foundation in the immortal realm. I'm afraid it won't be easy for you to cultivate." "Yes." Xiao Hua suddenly laughed and said, "Can I also follow you into the immortal realm?" "Ha, you dare to sneak into the immortal realm in front of the law envoy and the punishment envoy?" Fairy Xingyu laughed and said, "Aren't you afraid that I'll charge you with violating the immortal law and let Su Ji carry out the punishment?" "Ha, ha, I'm just saying." Xiao Hua laughed. Su Ji said earnestly, "Although you can sneak into the immortal realm and use some channels to get the spirit cleansing liquid to build your body, you'll be no different from an ordinary mortal fairy. However, it's not recorded in the immortal book. As the saying goes, if you don't have a proper name, you can't do it openly in the immortal realm. Therefore, I suggest that you go through the thunder tribulation to become an immortal." "Okay, I understand." Xiao Hua wasn't thinking about himself. He was also thinking about the future of Shenhua continent in the space. However, it seemed that Su Ji, the punishment envoy, was very impartial. Xiao Hua didn't dare to reveal anything. He just said casually, "Actually, even if you can't return to the immortal realm through the Star Moon Palace, you can still live freely in the 3 continents, right? If that's the case, Xiao Hua, why do you have to look for the way back to the Dawn Rain continent?" Fairy Xingyu glanced at Xiao Hua indifferently and asked, "You've cultivated to the Mahayana stage of the human clan in the 3 continents and experienced the most important part of your life. You should have deeper feelings for the 3 continents." Xiao Hua touched his nose and was speechless. Su Ji didn't retort like Fairy Xingyu. Instead, he said, "When we were in despair, we also had this plan. However, we are immortals. Most of our bodies are filled with immortal qi, and our souls are also filled with the laws of the immortal realm. Our physical bodies can't exist on the 3 continents for long. The ubiquitous essence qi of heaven and earth corrodes our physical bodies all the time. You must have seen that Fairy Xingyu couldn't avoid the collapse of her physical body. At this time, she had no choice but to occupy the body of Princess Baihua. Although Princess Baihua's body is more suitable for Fairy Xingyu, her physical body hasn't been tempered by the spirit-washing liquid, so it can't contain Fairy Xingyu's soul. She used a secret technique to nourish herself for nearly 200 years and only dared to come out of seclusion recently. And her strength has faded too much. Although I was a little stronger than Fairy Xingyue before, I've performed divination twice, which has greatly eroded my physical body. I can already feel that in less than 100 years, my physical body will collapse. I have no choice but to find a usable body. In fact, a few years ago, I've already advised Su Ji that it's best to prepare for a rainy day and find a way out for himself first." Fairy Xingyu's gaze fell on Su Ji with warmth. "But he has always disagreed. He doesn't want to interfere with another person's life, nor does he want to take another person's life for no reason. I'm the punishment envoy of the punishment palace, in charge of the punishment fairy weapon of the immortal world. If I don't have the most basic self-discipline in my heart, how can I be fair?" Su Ji replied faintly. "Aren't you the same? Although you've taken over Princess Baihua's body, I know that if nothing unexpected happens, your physical body can last for another 100 years. For the same belief, you mentioned abandoning your physical body. You've also lost a lot of cultivation. One is marked by the company one keeps." Fairy Xingyu pursed her lips and smiled. "I've always heard you say this, so I can't help but be self-disciplined." In the face of Fairy Xingyu's exposed thoughts, Su Ji changed the topic. Chapter 44-52. Then how did you cultivate? Fairy Xingyu asked sympathetically. When I was 18 years old, I obtained the punishment celestial weapon of the immortal world. Su Ji's gaze seemed to pass through time and space and fall on another distant world. Su Ji's story was not long, and there were some parts that Su Ji did not explain clearly. However, under Fairy Xingyu's questioning, Su Ji spoke for a full hour. Xiao Hua listened with interest. After all, this was another immortal's cultivation world. But in the end, Xiao Hua sighed again. Su Ji had his own hometown, Earth, and Fairy Xingyu had her own hometown, the Neon Glow Galaxy. Where was his hometown? The three continents. The Dawn Rain continent. Perhaps he would only know when his memory was restored. Su Ji, it's really not easy for you to become the punishment envoy of the punishment palace. Fairy Xingyu also expressed deep sympathy. Compared to you, my cultivation is simply a smooth path. Everyone has their own path, so there's no need to compare. Su Ji said faintly, just like the Law Palace and the Punishment Palace, why bother with each other's gains and losses? Just do your own thing. Hee, that's right. Fairy Xingyu nodded and said, if it weren't for the Sovereign of Justice and the Sovereign of Punishment, how could the Punishment Palace and the Law Palace be incompatible? Speaking of this, Su Ji looked up at the barrier and said, the sky is bright and the rain has stopped. Shall we go to the Chitty River now? No, there's no need to be in such a hurry, right? Fairy Xingyu seemed to be enjoying her time with Su Ji and answered reluctantly. Xiao Hua also hurriedly said, that's right. Senior Su, you've said so much, but you still haven't told me how this junior will help you. It's very simple. Su Ji said concisely, use your divine sense, which is very sensitive to the power of the stars and the moon, to find the exit in the starry sky maze and the immortal chi. Then, use the power of thunder to help me break the restriction. Ah. It's that simple. Xiao Hua was a little dumbfounded. Senior, don't lie to me. That's simple. Fairy Xingyu shouted, we found that starry sky maze formation 5 times. Each time, we entered a different place. Later, we used the magical powers of tens of thousands of cultivators to find the exit of the immortal chi twice. As for that restriction, even Su Ji couldn't break it with his strength. Do you think you can? Alright, just pretend I didn't say anything. Xiao Hua curled his lips, he was somewhat disapproving. He was very confident in his sense of direction in the void. The more others were unable to do it, the more he could do it. As for the restrictive spell, Xiao Hua did not believe that Reverend Yun's Pangu axe could not break it. At the thought of Reverend Yun, Xiao Hua asked hastily, oh right, can we use Cosmos bags in Star Moon Palace? There are some places where you can. Fairy Xingyu replied without hesitation. If so, how many cultivators can enter Star Moon Palace? Xiao Hua asked again. Fairy Xingyu answered with great familiarity, over the years, Star Picking Tower has recruited about 49,000 people from Tao League, Confucian cultivators, Buddhist sect, and the Demon Clan. All Confucian aristocratic families above the 3rd class would send people, and 60% of the aristocratic families below the 3rd class would send people. The Buddhist sect's guardians would send people. As for the Demon Clan, there are even more. After all, the Demon Clan is more sensitive to the power of the stars and moon. Star Moon Palace has appeared in the 1,000 Demons' sacred realm. If we count, there are about 60,000 people. So many. Xiao Hua was dumbfounded. Star Moon Palace was a famous ancient ruin in the 3 continents. Xiao Hua already felt that it was a lot to be qualified to enter a few hundred of them. Who would have thought that 60,000 people could enter at once? How was this training? It was more like sightseeing. Hee, Xingyue has been preparing for so long. Isn't it for this day? 50,000 people is not a lot. Fairy Xingyu said with a grin. Xiao Hua also smiled. If there were only a few hundred people, the 10,000 people he brought would be very eye-catching. However, since there were already 60,000 people going in, his 10,000 people were nothing. Junior also wants to bring some Fortune Gate disciples in. It won't affect anything, right? Xiao Hua asked tentatively. You want to take advantage of me again? Fairy Xingyu snapped. Can't you not take advantage of me? No, as long as I live, I won't stop taking advantage of you. Xiao Hua replied decisively. Su Ji glanced at Xiao Hua and said, it doesn't matter. Anyone can go in, as long as you find a place where you can use the Kunlun mirror. Hee, many thanks, senior. Xiao Hua's smile was even brighter than Xiao Hua's. In addition to what senior said earlier, if there's anything junior needs to do in the Star Moon Palace, please feel free to tell me. Humph, don't worry. Fairy Xingyu snorted coldly. We have already entered 8 times. If we can avoid borrowing your help, we will try our best not to. If you bring too many disciples in, you have to let them be careful of the dangers inside. After all, that kind of risk is almost unavoidable. Yes, Junior understands. Xiao Hua nodded respectfully. Then, the 3 of them discussed for a while before Fairy Xingyu removed the starlight boundary. Su Ji also scattered the waterfall water boundary. The waterfall fell on the stone wall again, roaring as it fell. Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu glanced at each other. They did not tell Xiao Hua that this waterfall was where they had first lost it in the 3 continents. Then, the 3 of them moved and flew toward the Chitty River in the east of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. When the stars of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm shone brightly, the Great Sacred Hall was the center of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, where the stars gathered. The stars that were originally the rulers of the starry skies fell on a star shadow somewhere in the Great Sage Hall. When the star materialized, another star pattern, mixed with the essence of the stars, fell into the Great Sage Hall. Inside the Great Sage Hall, the Phoenix Wu had already transformed into an enormous desolate chaos demon. The astral runes landed on the 132 billion points. A astral rune was engraved on it, and the Phoenix Wu's body rose a few feet higher. This situation was very similar to when Feng Wu became a great saint. However, at this time, the starry sky was all around Feng Wu, and the stars that the other great saints had transformed into did not appear. By the time all the stars in the Great Sacred Hall had materialized, Feng Wu was already inside the Great Sacred Hall. He floated to the surface of the Great Sacred Hall. The last star pattern was on his body, and his body had become one with the Great Sacred Hall. Boom! The entire Great Sage Hall shone with incomparably dazzling starlight. The void was filled with light, and even the tiniest of spatial cracks could be seen. At the same time, the entire Great Sage Hall had long disappeared. A star that had never appeared before emerged from the surface of the Great Sage Hall. The light shadow was more ferocious than the sun. It spread in all directions in the void. In the light shadow, the void was pierced and collapsed. The star of the stars had actually appeared in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Caw! In the starlight, a phoenix cry that shook the void rang out. The star of the stars instantly collapsed, and all the stars instantly turned into star marks. Feng Wu's body that had become a saint appeared from the stars. Feng Wu's demonic body was extremely huge. The star marks formed by the collapse of the stars were only 10% of his entire demonic body. The rest of his demonic body was still ethereal and gray. Even so, an incomparably vast and ferocious aura filled the entire void like a tidal wave. The great saint of the starry sky. The star of the stars. The saint of the saints. In the eyes of the golden-winged great rocks and the others, a 7-star great saint was already a peerless saint. However, they still underestimated the heavenly phoenix's covetousness. The saint of the saints was the heavenly phoenix's goal. Only a demon with the bloodline of the absolute saint could become the saint of the saints. Of course, the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm was only one of the many realms, and the Great Sage Hall was only one of the many demon holy lands. The Heavenly Phoenix's path was still very long. The Heavenly Phoenix Great Saint revealed his Saint of the Saint's body, and the image of the desolate stars appeared in his eyes. His gaze was fixed on a certain spot in the void. At this moment, the void rumbled with thunder that resembled a horned dragon. The power of laws of the three continents surged in from all directions, not allowing the Heavenly Phoenix Great Saint to resist at all. A trace of mockery appeared in the Heavenly Phoenix Great Saint's eyes, and then he closed them again. As the Heavenly Phoenix Great Saint closed his eyes, the ferocious aura receded like the tide. His demon Great Saint's body also faded from the starlight. The lightning disappeared, and the star of the stars appeared again. At this moment, the golden-winged great rock, the mystic armored pentaceratops, the flying feather void beast, the five-colored sea god shell, the scarlet flame vermilion bird, and the netherworld demonic dragon spider all appeared in the star of the stars. However, the stars of the golden-winged great rock, the flying feather void beast, and the five-colored sea god shell were covered in faint starlight, while the stars of the mystic armored pentaceratops, the scarlet flame vermilion bird, and the nether demonic dragon spider were grayish-white. However, in an instant, 3 star bridges emerged, and 3 starlights emerged from the void and fell on the 3 stars. The 3 stars also gave birth to starlight. Not only that, when the 6 stars were shining, the star of the golden-winged great ping bird flew several feet higher, and the star of the five-colored sea god shell fell several feet lower. The positions of the 6 great sages had changed. Although Feng Wu's demonic body had already hidden itself among the stars, his consciousness was still present. After observing the changes in the positions of the stars in the Great Sage Hall, Feng Wu's demonic body also escaped from the stars. The moment he left, the stars in the Great Sage Hall began to fade, and the hall's appearance appeared. The Heavenly Phoenix Great Saint still transformed into his previous star demon Great Saint and descended. When he landed half a foot higher than the golden-winged great ping bird, he stopped. Feng Wu opened his eyes and glanced at the 6 great sages of the demon race, whose eyes were tightly shut. With a flap of his wings, the starlight in the Great Sage Hall gradually extinguished. The Great Sage Hall became peaceful, and the pillars of stars that fell into the Great Sage Hall also disappeared. The Star of the Stars phenomenon that had shrouded the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm for dozens of days and nights also disappeared. P.S. A new year has begun. I wish all your wishes come true, and all the best. Thank you all for your support of the 3rd place finisher, and express my gratitude. Chapter 44-53. Oh. As the light dimmed, the golden-winged great ping bird was the first to come to his senses. He looked at Feng Wu, who was half a foot taller than him. While the golden-winged great ping bird was shocked, his eyes were filled with admiration. However, when he saw the mystic armored pentaceratops, who was dozens of feet shorter than him, a smile appeared on his face. The golden rock woke up, and so did the mystic armored pentaceratops and the others. The mystic armored pentaceratops, the scarlet flame vermilion bird, and the nether demonic dragon spider didn't expect to be able to rush back to the Great Sage Hall so quickly. However, when the star bridge appeared, they understood something. Therefore, the 3 great sages looked at each other without any particular surprise. Then, the 3 great sages looked at the 5-colored sea god Seashell, who was several feet behind them, and then looked at Feng Wu. Feng Wu saw that the great sages had returned to the Great Sage Hall and were looking at him. He knew that although he had concealed his identity as the Great Sage of all sages, he was still a 7-star Great Sage of the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. He was still the first Great Sage of the demon race. If he didn't speak, the other 6 great sages wouldn't speak either. Therefore, Feng Wu nodded at the 6 great sages and said to the golden rock, "Great Sage Peng, this is my first time in the Great Sage Hall. I'm not familiar with the Great Sage Hall or the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. Please introduce me." "Yes, Great Sage Feng. The Golden Rock's arrogance had mostly dissipated when he faced Feng Wu. He, the flying feather void beast, and the five-colored sea god Seashell all knew that Feng Wu's strength wasn't inferior to his when he was a 7-star Great Sage. Now that he'd cleansed himself with the Great Sage Hall's starlight, he'd even drawn the 6 stars of the Southern Dipper into his body. Although the Golden Rock didn't know what had happened after that, seeing that Feng Wu's star position was higher than his, the Golden Rock didn't dare to underestimate him. The Golden Rock turned to the mystic armored Pentaceratops, the scarlet flame vermilion bird, and the nether demonic dragon spider, and said, "This is the first great sage of the demon race, the heaven-defying thunder phoenix. Greetings, great sage Feng." The mystic armored Pentaceratops and the others respectfully and introduced themselves. Then, the golden-winged Great Peng continued, "Phoenix Sage, every time a new Great Saint enters the Great Sage Hall, there is an unwritten rule, and that is the ranking of the Great Sage. Of course, our star positions can already reveal each other's strength. However, there are many times when star positions don't necessarily represent saint positions. Thus, great saints with similar star positions can all fight to determine the final saint position." "Hee, I understand." Feng Wu smiled and said, "Don't look at how Bei Sheng has fallen to the bottom right now. His true strength might not be inferior to spider saints, right?" Without waiting for the golden-winged great rock to speak, the mystic armored Pentaceratops hurriedly said, "The Phoenix Sage is right. This is definitely the case now. However, the star position also represents the potential and speed of cultivation. In the future, Bei Sage may not be able to compare to Spider Sage." Feng Wu pondered for a moment, then nodded and said, "Since this is the custom of the Great Sage Hall, this saint will not overstep it. Great sages, if you have any objections, we can do our best to settle them." When the mystic armored Pentaceratops heard this, its eyes narrowed. However, it did not speak. Instead, it looked at the Golden Rock. The Golden Rock laughed and said, "Phoenix Saint, you're not joking with this saint, are you? This saint has already fought Phoenix Saint once before, and this saint admits that he is no match for him. If we fight again now, wouldn't this saint be looking for trouble?" Of course, Dragon Saint has always been unconvinced of this saint's position as the top expert of the demon race. He has challenged this saint many times. Now that Phoenix Saint has taken the lead, perhaps he will be interested. As it said this, the Golden Rock turned to look meaningfully at the mystic armored Pentaceratops and asked, "Don't you think so, Dragon Saint?" That's right, that's right." Before the mystic armored Pentaceratops could speak, the flying feather void beast in the distance shouted, "Dragons and phoenixes are the strongest demon race in ancient times. Phoenix Saint has never appeared in our 1,000-demon sacred realm. Now that Phoenix Saint has come to our Great Sage Hall, it is indeed time for us to broaden our horizons and see who is the strongest." The mystic armored Pentaceratops had originally wanted to see just how powerful this newly ascended 7 stars Great Saint was. However, after seeing the stars rise above the sun, and seeing even the golden-winged Great Peng concede defeat, and finally the flying feather void beast egging him on, how could he not know what to do? The mystic armored Pentaceratops smiled and said, "Although this saint has just met Phoenix Saint, before this saint, Sparrow Saint, and Spider Saint returned to the Great Sage Hall, the Phoenix Saint starlight marrow cleansing attracted the power of 10,000 stars to our 1,000-demon sacred realm. We have benefited greatly from it. We have yet to thank Phoenix Saint, so how can we fight Phoenix Saint?" With that, the mystic armored Pentaceratops bowed grandly and said, "Thank you for your help, Phoenix Saint." The red flame vermilion bird and the nether dragon spider also bowed to express their gratitude. Phoenix Saint smiled and bowed back. The flying feather void beast and the 5-colored sea god Seashell were a little depressed. After the 3 great saints bowed, the Golden Rock spoke again, "Since no great saint wants to challenge Phoenix Saint, then Phoenix Saint's title as the top great saint of the demon race is set. This saint is the 2nd great saint of the demon race. Is there anyone who wants to challenge this saint?" As the Golden Rock spoke, his gaze fell on the mystic armored pentaceratops. The mystic armored pentaceratops' mouth was bitter. He knew very well that the golden rock's strength was on par with his. The golden rock's bloodline was a little stronger than his, but now the golden rock's star position was dozens of feet higher than his. This meant that he had broken through the bottleneck, and the star marks on his demonic body had solidified. The golden rock's strength completely overshadowed his. If he challenged the golden rock for no reason, he would only be humiliating himself. There was no other outcome. Therefore, the mystic armored pentaceratops smiled and said, "Phoenix Saint is high and mighty. Which saint dares to make a fool of themselves again?" "Yes." The golden rock nodded and looked at the five-colored sea god seashell. He said, "Sea god seashell, your star position is the lowest now. Today, you will be the last saint. With your current strength, you may not necessarily be the seventh great saint of the demon race. If you want, you can challenge Spider Saint." Hearing the golden rock's words, the five-colored sea god seashell didn't react. The nether demonic dragon spider's pupils constricted. The mystic armored pentaceratops had already made it clear that the five-colored sea god seashell's strength was definitely higher than his. If he fought the five-colored sea god seashell, he would definitely be the last of the seven great saints. However, a moment later, the five-colored sea god seashell smiled and said, "I have already seen the power of Phoenix Saint in my previous battle with her. At the same time, I have also glimpsed the peak combat strength of the demon race. Since I want to challenge you, I will challenge the first great saint of the demon race. As for today's battle, it doesn't matter if we don't fight. I will temporarily occupy the position of the seventh great saint of the demon race. So what?" "Good." The golden rock clapped and smiled. There is a saying in the human race that every dog has its day. 30 years is too short for the demon race. Why don't we make a promise of 3,000 years? After 3,000 years, we will meet again to fight. Ha! The pentagram dragon laughed. After 3,000 years, Rock Saint and Phoenix Saint will have broken through the starry sky. Even if we want to fight, we won't be able to find the two great saints. Ha ha ha. The flying feather void beast and the others laughed. Seeing that the great sage hall had never been so friendly before, Feng Wu's heart moved. He said, "When a new great saint enters the great sage hall, there is usually a lot of excitement. Today, when I enter, it seems a little lonely. How about this? We are all the most powerful demon race in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, and we are all great saints of the Great Sage Hall. Although we can't be considered brothers, for the sake of the future prosperity of the demon race and the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, why don't we become sworn brothers?" 7 saints become sworn brothers. Not only was the golden-winged Great Ping stunned by Feng Wu's words, but even the other saints were stunned. After all, the demon race was not like the human race. They had always respected individual combat strength. Even if they were on good terms with each other, they were mostly demons of their own race. How could they become sworn brothers with other demon races? Even if the black armored pentaceratops and the nether demonic dragon spider were on good terms, they had never thought of becoming sworn brothers. Even though the various saints appeared to be harmonious on the surface, who knew how many conflicts there were in private? The heirs of the various holy lands even fought each other to the death. The golden rock hesitated for a moment and asked, "Phoenix Sage, what do you mean?" Feng Wu smiled. "Rock Sage, I'm sure you've been to the hidden immortal continent and the pure land of ultimate bliss to train. If there is a conflict between the Confucian cultivators and the Buddhist sect, who do you think will win?" The golden rock did not hesitate and said, "If I'm not wrong, it should be the Buddhist sect." "Why?" Feng Wu asked. Although the Buddhist sect is divided into many factions, they all belong to the Thunder Sound Temple. Under the orders of the Mahavairakana revered Buddha, the entire Buddhist sect must obey. The golden rock explained. On the other hand, although the Confucian cultivators also have immortal Emperor Go Chen from the Immortal Palace, the 4 great clans may not obey the orders of the Immortal Palace. The other 100 classics will definitely obey the orders of the Immortal Palace. In this case, the winner is obvious. That's right. Feng Wu nodded. Although the demons of the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm have strong physical bodies, they can't compare to the human race in terms of cooperation. The Great Sage Temple can command the entire Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, but are the 7 great sages of the Great Sage Temple united? The black-armored Pentaceratops was displeased and said, "Phoenix Sage, you just came to the Great Sage Temple. How can you see that the Great Sage Temple's sages are not united? Dragon Sage, don't be impatient." Feng Wu said unhurriedly. "What I said earlier is only one of the reasons. Secondly, the Great Sage Temple originally had 6 great sages. Although the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm is large, I'm afraid there is not a single demon realm in it that is outside of the sage's influence, right?" When Feng Wu said this, all the sages' expressions changed slightly, and the Golden Rock was no exception. The sages arranged the order of sages mainly for the distribution of benefits in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. As the leader of the sages, Feng Wu should have the largest sphere of influence in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. If an ordinary demon sage became a demon sage, he would have a certain sphere of influence in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. As long as the other sages compromised and gave up some benefits, it would be enough. However, Feng Wu had no foundation in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm and appeared out of nowhere. If Feng Wu occupied a sphere of influence in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, wouldn't the other great sages give up even more benefits? Chapter 44-54. The mystic armored Pentaceratops and the netherworld demonic dragon spider glanced at the 5-colored sea god shell, gloating. However, Feng Wu's words left all the saints dumbfounded once again. Feng Wu continued, "I'm now the number 1 great saint in the Great Sage Temple, and I should have the largest sphere of influence in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. However, my current situation is similar to Sage Peng's, and I might break through the starry sky soon. I don't want to destroy the balance of power in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, nor do I want to take the power that originally belonged to you from your hands. Therefore, I hope to become sworn brothers with all the saints and live peacefully in the future." Sage Phoenix's words make me ashamed. The Golden Rock nodded. Sage Phoenix is willing to make such a sacrifice for the peace of the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. You're truly our role model. I'm willing to become sworn brothers with Sage Phoenix, and I also suggest that every great saint should give a piece of the Demon King realm to Sage Phoenix to express our sincerity. That's right, that's how it should be. The flying feather void beast immediately shouted. I'm also willing to become sworn brothers with Sage Phoenix, and I'm also willing to give you a piece of the Demon King realm. The 5-colored sea god shell was stunned, but he immediately understood. Feng Wu and Xiao Hua had a close relationship. He was forced to offer Bai Qingyu to Xiao Hua, and Xiao Hua gave it to Feng Wu. Bai Qingyu was naturally considered as his offering to Feng Wu. He didn't dare to delay, and hurriedly shouted, "Same for me." Seeing that all 3 great saints had agreed, the red flame vermilion bird also smiled and shouted, "I'm also willing." Thus, the mystic armored Pentaceratops and the netherworld demonic dragon spider could only agree. They didn't know that they had been tricked by the Golden Rock. Seeing that all the saints had agreed, the Golden Rock smiled and said, "Since that's the case, Sage Phoenix, let's become sworn brothers in the Great Sage Temple, and let all the demons in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm witness a magnificent scene that has never been seen before." Agreed. Feng Wu smiled. Boom. Hearing Feng Wu's agreement, the golden-winged Great Peng flapped its wings, and the solidified star mark turned into a star that rushed into the starry sky. The mystic armored Pentaceratops, the flying feather void beast, and the others also shook their star marks. Finally, the phoenix parasol also spread its wings, and the 7 stars rushed into the starry sky. Woo! The entire great sacred hall shook, and countless rays of light streaked across the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. Amidst the light, the silhouette of the great holy hall was revealed. High above the great holy hall, the heaven-defying thunder phoenix, the golden-winged great rock, the arcane pentaceratops, the flying feather void beast, the scarlet flame vermilion bird, the netherworld demonic dragon spider, and the five-colored sea god shell appeared. Although the 1,000 demons' sacred realm was huge, every demon could see it clearly no matter where they were. At the same time, a majestic voice rang out from the great holy hall. The great holy hall of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm has rearranged the position of great saint. Today, the great sage hall has 7 great sages. They are the first great sage, the heaven-defying thunder phoenix. The second holy golden-winged great rock, the third holy mystic armored pentaceratops, the fourth holy flying feather void beast, the fifth holy vermilion flame vermilion bird, the sixth holy netherworld demonic dragon spider, and the seventh holy five-colored sea god shell. Because of the first great sage, the heaven-defying thunder phoenix, the 7 great sages have sworn an oath in the great sage hall. As his voice fell, the entire great sage hall shone with starlight, once again enveloping the entire 1,000 demons' sacred realm. The heaven-defying lightning phoenix and the other great sages lined up around the great sage temple and bowed 9 times in a row. The light of the great sage temple flickered 9 times in a row. Boom! When it was the last time, even more starlight fell from the sky, enveloping the 1,000 beasts' sacred realm for an hour. After the 7 sages became sworn brothers, they all returned to their demon forms. Feng Wu looked at the sages and said, "This sage has just entered the great holy hall and experienced the starlight marrow cleansing. There are many mysteries of the stars in the great holy hall that I have yet to comprehend. The great holy hall is the 1,000 demons' sacred realm, so all matters will be discussed by the sages. This sage will go into seclusion to comprehend them. If the sages have any use for this sage, feel free to wake me up." Seeing that Feng Wu was about to go into seclusion and completely ignore the matters of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm, the golden-winged great rock and the others looked at each other and smiled knowingly. "Phoenix Sage, there's no need to be like this. You are the first great saint of our demon race. We have something to report to you." This sage's heart is focused on cultivation, not worldly affairs. "Please take care of me, sages." Feng Wu laughed loudly. His figure flickered, and he disappeared into the starry sky above the great holy hall. "All right." The golden-winged great rock watched helplessly as Feng Wu left. He looked around and said, "Since the Phoenix Sage doesn't care about worldly affairs, we'll discuss among ourselves. If there's anything we need the Phoenix Sage for, it won't be too late to tell him then." The mystic armored pentaceratops was also happy. Although he was currently the 3rd great saint, he was actually no different from the 2nd great saint. In particular, the golden-winged great rock had already broken through his bottleneck. If nothing unexpected happened, he would definitely be able to shatter the stars within 3,000 years. The same was true for the heaven-defying thunder phoenix. To the mystic armored pentaceratops, 3,000 years was merely 30 years for an ordinary human. He had plenty of patience. "All right." The mystic armored pentaceratops nodded. "This sage will first talk about what I saw in Qijing. This demon realm is truly strange." However, before the mystic armored pentaceratops could finish speaking, another streak of starlight rushed out of the space in front of the golden-winged great rock. This starlight flickered rapidly, like an eye blinking. The golden-winged great rock was shocked. He said in a low voice, "Dragon Sage, please wait. There seems to be an extremely urgent report." "Dragon Sage, please." The mystic armored pentaceratops naturally knew the rules and nodded. The golden-winged great rock's claw grabbed the air, and the starlight fell into it. When the starlight faded, it was a beast skin shaped like a flying bird. The golden-winged great rock picked up the beast skin and scanned it with his vital sense. He looked up at the other 5 saints and handed the beast skin to the mystic armored Pentaceratops. Dragon Sage, please take a look. The mystic armored Pentaceratops was very curious about the golden-winged great rock's expression. When he took the beast skin and scanned it with his vital sense, he was enraged and shouted, "How is this possible? The humans actually sent an army of hundreds of thousands to invade our thousand-demon sacred realm? And they returned to the hidden immortal continent after destroying a demon realm? Damn it, they actually called themselves the invincible army of the 3 continents. Wherever they go, no matter if it's demon realm or human realm, anyone who dares to stand in their way will be killed. They really don't want to live anymore. Damn it. The nether demonic dragon spider saw this and shouted, "Dragon Sage, when did this human army invade our thousand-demon sacred realm? How come we didn't know? Dragon Sage, this saint wants to personally lead a demon realm army to stop them." The red flame vermilion bird was also furious. Only we demon realm can say such arrogant words. A mere human army dares to call themselves an invincible army? Dragon Sage, did it only say to destroy a demon realm? The flying feather void beast's eyes flashed and asked softly. That's right. The mystic armored Pentaceratops nodded. Not only did we massacre a demon realm, but we also killed the 14 demon kings and great demons blocking our way. Then, what about the demon realms where the 14 demon kings and great demons are? The flying feather void beast asked again. The mystic armored Pentaceratops was stunned when he saw that the flying feather void beast wasn't surprised and instead asked about the demon realms where the great demons were. He looked at the flying feather void beast, then at the golden-winged great rock, and asked curiously, "What does their demon realms have to do with them?" "Oh, looks like they weren't trampled or massacred." The flying feather void beast understood and lowered his head, no longer speaking. "Sage and I, what do you mean by that?" The golden-winged great rock's heart thumped as if he had thought of something. He turned his eyes to the 5-colored sea god shell and asked, "Sage and I, how did the banquet go this time? Why did your star rank drop so much?" Dragon Sage. The 5-colored sea god shell didn't want to talk to him. "Hurry up and give Sparrow Sage an army of the demon clan. These humans are too arrogant. We have to teach them a lesson." "Okay, Sparrow Sage." The mystic armored Pentaceratops nodded and looked at the red flame vermilion bird. "Why don't you, don't worry." The vermilion bird chuckled. "These humans were able to sneak into the territory of our demon race without anyone noticing. This vermilion bird is a little suspicious. In my opinion, we should first investigate how they managed to escape our detection." "Okay." Seeing that the sages were starting to understand, the golden-winged great rock said, "We just became sworn brothers in the Great Sage Hall. Are you trying to shirk your responsibility now? This matter has something to do with Phoenix Sage." With that, the golden-winged great rock gave a simple explanation of what happened at Qing Bo's banquet. "Finally," he said, "Phoenix Sage seems to be on very good terms with that Xiao Hua. Phoenix Sage became sworn brothers with us before saying that he wouldn't interfere with the affairs of the Great Sage Hall, nor would he spread his forces throughout the thousand-demon sacred realm. I think it's because of the human army. For Phoenix Sage's sake, we can't make things too difficult for this army, right?" "Ah. Then." The red flame vermilion bird was shocked and said anxiously, "Phoenix Sage isn't a human spy, right?" "Ha ha ha." The netherworld demonic dragon spider laughed and pointed at the red flame vermilion bird. "Sparrow Sage, you haven't been burned silly by your red flame, have you? If Phoenix Sage is a human spy, how could he have been recognized by the Great Sage Hall? How could he have been worshipped by all the stars? Besides, Phoenix Sage didn't attack Ping Sage, Ni Sage, or Bei Sage. He even hoped that we could work together to build the glory of the thousand-demon sacred realm. If he's a spy, I don't think he would say that, right? This sage thinks so too." The golden-winged great rock nodded. It's already extremely rare for a human spy to become a great demon of our Yao clan. How could a spy become a 7-star great saint? Besides, with Phoenix Sage's current status, why would he care about being a human spy? This sage understands. The red flame vermilion bird nodded. However, as he nodded, a smile appeared on his face. He understood that there was no need to take anything said in the Great Sage Hall seriously. Chapter 44-55. Are you still going to stop the Fortune Gates army? The great golden-winged rock asked with a faint smile. I'm not crazy. The red flame vermilion bird laughed. Why would I make you unhappy for no reason? Besides, the Taoist and Confucian cultivators on the hidden immortal continent are mortal enemies. Aren't the Fortune Gates disciples going to turn the hidden immortal continent upside down? Won't the Thousand Demons' sacred realm be able to take advantage of that? If that's the case, the great golden-winged rock ordered, Dragon Sage, pass down the Great Sage Hall's order. Don't stop the Taoists' army. Let them go back and find trouble with the Confucian cultivators. We'll continue to discuss the matter of Qijing. Yes, I understand. The mystic armored Pentaceratops nodded in agreement. Xiao Hua accompanied Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu as they flew into the sky. Starlight once again appeared in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. The Great Sage Hall's silhouette appeared majestic in the sky. Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu stopped and looked at the grand occasion that seemed to be right in front of them. How is that possible? Fairy Xingyu turned pale with fright. Heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix? The 7 stars great sage from before. Why don't I have any records of him? Moreover, once the 7-star great saint enters the Great Sage Hall, he will immediately become the strongest expert of the demon race. The power structure of the entire Thousand Demons' sacred realm will change greatly. This is something that has never happened before in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Not only that. Su Ji's expression changed. Although the 6 great sages of the Great Sage Hall were powerful, they were not united. They fought for their own interests and rarely extended their hands out of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Now that the 7 great sages of the Great Sage Hall have become sworn brothers, won't they be expanding the Thousand Demons' sacred realm? Although the human race has a lot of people, our true strength is still incomparable to the demon race. The grudge between the Confucian cultivators and the Buddhist sect has not been resolved. If the demon race rises again, the 3 continents will not be peaceful in the future. Su Ji. After Su Ji finished speaking, Fairy Xingyu said, you might not have been in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm before, but the 7 stars great sage who entered the Great Sage Hall was more powerful than this. It was said that the Thousand Demons' sacred realm was filled with stars that illuminated the Thousand Demons' sacred realm for 81 days and nights. Although the stars had already passed by the time I arrived, the power of the stars and moon in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm is extremely powerful, far surpassing what I've seen. What? Far beyond what you can see? Xingyue, you mean? Su Ji almost didn't dare to believe his ears, and he said in shock, you've never seen it in the celestial realm? Not bad. Fairy Xingyu nodded affirmatively. This reminds me of some of the secrets of the Demon League that the Palace of Justice has. Hearing that this was a secret of the Palace of Justice, Su Ji frowned and only responded in a low voice, not asking any more questions. Fairy Xingyu also knew that these secrets could not be divulged. She only explained, the Star of the Stars, the Saint of all Saints. I suspect that this 7 stars great saint is not only the 7 stars great saint, but also the so-called Saint of all Saints in the Demon League. Kill. Xiao Hua's heart stirred, and he said, although I'm somewhat familiar with this heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix, and previously Bai Qingyu also obtained some of his main force, I didn't expect him to have such great achievements. If the 2 seniors have any misgivings, please allow me to go and kill him. No. Suji shook his head and said, even if the first great saint of the demon clan is the saint of all saints, it has nothing to do with us. We won't interfere in the affairs of the 3 continents. Of course, Xiaohua, if you think that this great saint will hinder the prosperity of the human clan and cause endless killing, you can go ahead and kill him. Fairy Xingyu looked at Xiaohua thoughtfully, as if pondering whether what Xiaohua said was true. Then, she shook her head and said, the Star of the Stars is a demon clan expert who possesses the power of the stars. Not only is his strength outstanding, but his luck is also on par with the stars. With the ability of the human clan, I'm afraid we can't get rid of him. Xiaohua, since you're familiar with him, you'd better be careful. Xiaohua heaved a sigh of relief and nodded. I understand. I'll try my best to befriend him. If he doesn't offend me, I won't touch him either. Let's go. This has nothing to do with us. Suji waved his hand and said, the ones with a headache should be Immortal Emperor Go-Chen and Vairocana revered Buddha. Suji was right. At this time, in the Thunder Temple, the Buddhas were silent. Whether it was bodhisattvas, arhats, or heavenly kings, they all put their palms together and looked at the Buddhist cloud in front of the Thunder Temple. At this time, the Buddhist cloud was a little dim. The endless heavenly flowers and Sanskrit chanting inside had long been blocked by the dazzling starlight. The Buddhist cloud was like a mirror, revealing the strange starlight of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. Of course, the outline of the great sage hall, which should have been the clearest, could not be seen at all. The heaven-defying thunder phoenix and the other 7 saint star demon bodies could not be revealed. The only thing the Buddhas could see was the endless starlight. The dazzling starlight only lasted for a moment. Then, a breeze blew, and the Buddhist radiance shone brightly, completely covering the starlight. The Vairocana revered Buddha's voice rang in the Buddha's ears, Amitabha. The radiance of the stars and the moon is the radiance of heaven and earth. Only my Buddhist radiance is the radiance of humanity. The radiance of the stars and the moon originates from nature, while the Buddhist radiance comes from one's own body. When the radiance of the stars and the moon enters one's body, no matter how strong one's strength is, it's only relying on external forces. The Buddhist radiance is one's foundation, one's own self. My Buddha. The Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva put his palms together and said, Buddhism is formed by faith, and light is born from thoughts. Heaven and earth may change, but the Buddhist radiance is inexhaustible because of faith. Namo Amitabha. Namo Amitabha. The Buddhas lowered their brows and chanted. For a moment, the sky was filled with peanuts. Strands of faith power were born out of thin air and surged into the radiance behind the Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva's head. After a while, the Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha said, Namo Amitabha. A few days ago, the 1,000 demons' sacred realm's 7 stars of the Big Dipper descended. According to the demon race's cultivation, a great sage descending. Previously, the great sage hall already had 6 great sages. With this one, there should be 7 great sages. Namo Amitabha. The revered one is right. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva put his palms together and replied, this 7th great sage is different from the previous 6 great sages. He caused the 7 stars of the Big Dipper to descend. According to the demon race's words, he's a 7 stars great sage. His strength should be 7 times that of an ordinary great sage. Speaking up to this point, the Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva frowned and said, however, for the stars to shine today, and the entire 1,000 demons' sacred realm to be covered in starlight, it's really strange. Could it be that the 7th great sage had entered the great sage hall and triggered the demon race's secret importation? The starlight is 100 times more abundant than usual, and it also covers the 1,000 demons' sacred realm for 81 days and 81 nights. The overall strength of the demon race in the 1,000 demons' sacred realm has increased. In the distance, the dragon-slaying Arhat took a step forward and put his palms together. Revered one, the Buddha aura has been appearing frequently in our Pure Land world recently. Not only has the Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva and the Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva returned to their positions, even the long-lost Namo Maitreya Buddha has descended in the Thunder Temple. It can be said that the Buddha aura is boundless and the Buddha aura is shining everywhere. If nothing unexpected happens, our Pure Land World's Buddhist sect has already taken the lead among the Buddhist, Confucian, and demon sects of the 3 continents. As long as we complete the sutra seeking extreme bliss, the hidden immortal continent will also be filled with Buddhist lotuses. When the hidden immortal continent is at its peak, the 1,000 demons sacred realm will no longer be a concern. However, the 1,000 demons sacred realm has a strange phenomenon today. It's actually a myriad of stars shining in the sun. I'm afraid that the day of the Buddha aura's descent into the 1,000 demons sacred realm will be delayed. In this disciple's opinion, the demon race must have sensed a crisis and used the secret technique of the Great Sage Temple to forcibly increase the overall strength of the demon race. Namo Amitabha. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva shook his head. Dragon-slaying sage, what you said seems to make sense, but I think that's not the case. Oh. Go ahead, Bodhisattva. The dragon-slaying Arhat raised his long eyebrows and asked. First of all, our Buddhist sect has no direct conflict with the demon race. Although our Buddha sect saves all living beings, it doesn't exclude the demon race. However, the demon race has always been stubborn and ignorant. They are far less intelligent than us humans. The glory of our Buddha aura has never covered the hidden immortal continent, so why should we be so ambitious and try to illuminate the 1,000 demons sacred realm? The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva explained. Secondly, the astronomical phenomenon of myriad stars shining in the sun is far from what an ordinary great sage of the demon race can do. This must be related to the 7th great sage, not some secret technique of the demon race. The dragon-slaying Arhat opened his mouth and wanted to refute, but he swallowed his words. He bowed and said, Namo Amitabha, this disciple thanks the Bodhisattva for his teachings. Senior Brother Samantabhadra. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva smiled again. The demon realm is the demon realm. My Buddha is in my heart. Why should I care if it's myriad stars shining in the sun? Yes, Junior Brother Manjushri is right. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva nodded. This seat is concerned. Vaishravana. At this moment, Mahavarakana Buddha spoke. Did you hear anything? Vaishravana hurriedly said, Revered one, this disciple didn't hear it clearly, but vaguely, it should be the ranking of the 7 great sages of the demon race's Great Sage Temple. The current first great sage is no longer the golden-winged rock, but the heaven-defying thunder phoenix. The 5-colored seashell that used to be ranked 4th also fell to the bottom. What puzzles this disciple the most is that the 6 great sages of the demon race who have always been fighting each other to the death have become sworn brothers with the heaven-defying thunder phoenix. Oh! How can this be? The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva and the Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva were stunned. Manjushri. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva didn't seem to want to say more about this matter. Instead, he asked, where is the sutra seeking bliss now? Revered one. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva hurriedly replied. It's already at the northern part of the Pure Land world, the peak of the South Sea. It won't take long before it crosses the sea and leaves the Pure Land world. Namo Amitabha. We're halfway through the sutra seeking bliss. Don't make any changes. Be careful. This disciple understands. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva smiled bitterly. Ever since Chuanzang took in a demon race named Jia Qi, the path of seeking the sutra seeking bliss has become smooth. Even if there are any changes, this powerful demon race will stifle them. As he spoke, the Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva looked up at the Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva nodded at the Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva with a smile. Vaishravana Heavenly King, Vaishravana Heavenly King. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva said, the situation in the 3 continents is very complicated. The 1,000 demon sacred realm and the 7 sages have become sworn brothers. The sutra seeking bliss is between the pure land world and the hidden immortal continent. The star moon palace that the humans and demons are searching for seems to be appearing as well. Keep an eye on the 3 continents. If there are any changes, report it immediately. Chapter 44-56. Yes, disciple understands. Heavenly King Vaishravana and Heavenly King Verpka placed their palms together and received the Buddhist edict. Namo Mahasabha, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, stay behind. The rest of you, leave. Said the Dipankara archaic Buddha. Namo Amitba, Namo Amitba. As the Buddhas chanted, they gradually faded into the void, leaving only the Buddhist radiances and lotus shadows in the thunderclap temple. After the Buddhist radiances faded, the Namo Mahasabha, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, bowed and asked, World Exalted One, may I know why you asked this disciple to stay behind? Let me ask you, that abstaining from eating. Where did it come from? The Dipankara archaic Buddha opened his eyes and asked calmly, when Chuanzang and his 3 disciples ascended the great snowy mountain, this disciple didn't exist. However, after descending from the great snowy mountain, this demon appeared. At that time, only you and the Namo Maitreya Buddha were on the great snowy mountain. I'm afraid you're the only one who knows the origin of abstaining from eating. The Namo Mahasabha, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, smiled bitterly and said, World Exalted One, this disciple does know about this. However, this matter involves the Namo Maitreya Buddha, World Exalted One. May I ask the Namo Maitreya Buddha, World Exalted One? At this point, the Namo Mahasabha, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, pondered for a while and said, however, from what this disciple knows, this abstaining from eating respects Chuanzang from the bottom of his heart. He's definitely one of the most devout Buddhas in our Buddhism. Similarly, he wouldn't obstruct the sutra praying for nirvana in any way. Sai, Samantabhadra, the sutra praying for nirvana has reached this stage. It really makes one speechless. The Dipankara archaic Buddha sighed and said, if an 8th grade essence force demon is to protect Chuanzang, how could there be any difficulties along the way? This sutra praying for nirvana, wouldn't it become a joke? The Namo Mahasabha, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, naturally knew what the Dipankara archaic Buddha meant. However, he was helpless and could only bow, Exalted One, this disciple, doesn't have any better ideas. Samantabhadra, you may leave. Discuss with Manjushri and see what we can do about this matter. Mahavarakana revered Buddha's eyes did not open as he ordered lightly. Yes, revered one of the world, I understand. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva bowed. The Buddhist light gradually dimmed as he left the Laying temple. Looking at the silent thunderclap temple and the ever-changing Buddha clouds, the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord said in a low voice, World Lord, previously, the World Lord mentioned that the Namo Maitreya Buddha World Lord is afraid of harming my thunderclap temple. Is this abstinence from eating? Could it be that he wants to get his hands on the fruit of sutra seeking nirvana? Namo Amitba. With our Buddhism sect's current strength, even if the demon race has the 7 great sages, we won't be at a disadvantage. The Mahavarakana Buddha World Lord clasped his palms together and said with an indescribable benevolence, on the other hand, the immortal palace should be the strongest. Even if we don't consider the 100 schools of thought's unwillingness to accept the military school, their strength seems to have fallen into a disadvantage. The immortal palace had already fallen into a disadvantage before the sutra praying in nirvana. How could they possibly turn the tables around now? The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord calmly replied. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a strange glint flashed across his eyes, which were as calm as a dry well, and he said, also, Supreme of the world, I'm not sure if you noticed, but before the star of 10,000 stars appeared, there seemed to be a movement in the thousand demons' sacred realm that surpassed the laws of the three continents. Amitabha. The Mahavairakana Buddha World Lord's face was also filled with surprise. He nodded and said, "Senior Marshal Brother is right. Let alone this disturbance, there have been many disturbances that transcended the laws of the three continents recently. It's just that this disturbance came from the past. It swept past the present and rushed straight into the future. If the Maitreya Buddha World Lord was here, he might be able to see something. However, Senior Marshal Brother and I might not be able to see through it." World Lord. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord hesitated for a moment before saying, "Do you think it's related to the two from the moon-embracing palace? Or, is it related to that person in the thousand demons' sacred realm? If I'm not mistaken, it should be." The Mahavairakana Buddha World Lord nodded and said, "Only the disturbance caused by those two could trigger the laws of the heavens and earth, allowing them to avoid our Buddhism mystical arts. Moreover, it said that the Star Moon Palace will appear in the thousand demons' sacred realm's Crimson Earth River. It should be caused by those two, right? However, those two have always kept a low profile and never caused any trouble in the three continents. Unless something special happened, they wouldn't use their mystical arts. As for that person in the thousand demons' sacred realm, I feel that she doesn't have such a high cultivation. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that she's arrogant and domineering, offending those two. Anyway, they're all in the thousand demons' sacred realm. We don't have to be too concerned. Right now, the most important thing for our Buddhism sect is to complete the sutra praying in extreme bliss. Amitabha. My Buddha is merciful. I hope that those two will always be merciful." The Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord's chanting spread far and wide within the spacious Thunder Sound Temple and didn't stop for a long time. If the Thunder Sound Temple's past Buddha Lord and present Buddha Lord could sense the movement of the stars in the thousand demons' sacred realm, how could the Immortal Palace's Immortal Emperor Go Chen not know? Within the Immortal Palace's Cloud Ascension Hall, the Immortal Emperor's mountain-like figure remained tall and straight on the huge golden throne. Hundreds of dragon-shaped destinies carried thousands of inscriptions around the golden throne. Although they seemed to be moving freely, they were also circulating in a mysterious trajectory. In front of the Immortal Emperor's eyes, a huge starry sky had just been concealed. The cloud surrounding the starry sky still had dazzling starlight flickering. It seemed like the myriad of stars in the thousand demons' sacred realm had also covered the golden throne's radiance. Everyone. As the Immortal Emperor opened his mouth, the destinies around him immediately converged into his indomitable figure. However, his voice was still as deafening as thunder. It was obvious that the Immortal Emperor's current emotions were stirred up. You all have seen it. You all have also heard the clairaudience report. Do you all have anything to say? As he spoke, two faint golden lights flashed from the heaven and earth crown on the Immortal Emperor's head. It was obvious that the Immortal Emperor was looking around. Currently, within the Cloud Ascension Hall, other than Taibai Jinxing and the other civil officials, Heavenly King Qinyu, Heavenly King Fuyu, and the other generals, there was also the Nangong family's young master, Nangong Jingyin. Hearing the Immortal Emperor's words, the officials glanced at each other. Just as they were about to speak, Nangong Jingyin uncharacteristically took half a step forward and bowed. "Your Majesty, this humble subject has something to say." The Immortal Emperor was clearly dazed. Taibai Jinxing and the others also frowned. After all, Nangong Jingyin wasn't considered an official of the Cloud Ascension Hall. Even if he wanted to speak, he had to wait for Taibai Jinxing and Heavenly King Qinyu to finish. "Speak." The Immortal Emperor spoke. "Your Majesty." Nangong Jingyin's square face revealed a trace of understanding. He said, "This humble subject has read our Nangong family's books since young. Not only did I study the teachings of the human race, but I also dabbled in the inheritance of the beast race. Whether it was the 13 great saints of the beast race at their peak or the 2 great saints of the beast race at their weakest, this humble subject has some understanding of them. However, this humble subject has never heard of a 7-star great saint appearing in the beast race today. This humble subject remembers that the beast race once had a 2-star great saint who attracted the 7 kills star and knowledge star of the Southern Dipper into his body. This great saint of the beast race was called the heaven-flipping great saint and boasted that he could flip the heavens. That day, the beast race of the 1,000 beast sacred realm rebelled. Our immortal palace sent Fu Hai Heavenly King, Ping Yao Heavenly King, and Ji Ping Heavenly King to suppress them. Our immortal soldiers and generals were unstoppable and fought all the way to the great sage palace of the 1,000 beast sacred realm. The only 2 great sages of the great sage palace went to stop the 3 heavenly kings. The immortal palace lord Zi Wei immortal emperor and the Tai Ching palace lord appeared to face the enemy. The 4 supreme cultivators of our 3 continents fought for 3 days and that heaven-flipping great saint's power actually surpassed Zi Wei immortal emperor. He used the power of 2 stars to injure Zi Wei immortal emperor and then joined forces with another great saint to destroy the Tai Ching palace lord's main body. Since that battle, our human race knew that the 2-star great saint of the beast race was more than a level stronger than normal great saints. Of course, this battle happened a long time ago, and this humble subject doesn't know if anyone still remembers it. Today, this new great saint of the beast race actually attracted the 7 stars of the Big Dipper. He's probably even stronger than heaven-flipping great saint. Chapter 44-57. You're right. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen praised, this is a secret of my immortal palace. Even the officials of the immortal palace don't know about it. It's rare for your Nangong family to have such a clear record. Your Majesty. Nangong Jingyin's expression changed slightly, and she hastily bowed, I know that this is a secret, but I don't dare to not report it. The rise of the demon race is a nightmare for our human race. I would rather report it than be punished by your Majesty. I'm not that muddle-headed. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen sneered, speak your mind. Yes, your Majesty. Nangong Jingyin was neither arrogant nor rash as she continued, however, I still have a huge doubt. I wonder if your Majesty can clear it up for me. Speak. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen ordered. I've just said that I'm willing to make any sacrifice for the prosperity of our human race. Thus, I usually pay attention to the movements of the 1,000 demon sacred realm and the extreme world. I have some understanding of the 6 great sages of the 1,000 demon sacred realm. Nangong Jingyin said respectfully, however, I've never heard of this heaven-defying lightning phoenix's name. I also didn't know that the phoenix race, which has long been declining in the 1,000 demon sacred realm, actually had such a great sage. Can your Majesty please tell me which demon realm this heaven-defying lightning phoenix came from? Needless to say, Nangong Jingyin was trying to flatter Immortal Emperor Go-Chen. Unexpectedly, Immortal Emperor Go-Chen faintly replied, what you know, I also know. What you don't know, I also don't know. I also want to ask the 4 great clans. Who can tell me where this 7-star heaven-defying lightning phoenix that suddenly appeared, came from? Nangong Jingyin took in a cold breath and hastily bowed, I know my mistake. Please punish me, your Majesty. What mistake did you make? If you're guilty, then wouldn't I be even more guilty? Immortal Emperor Go-Chen was clearly a bit angry as he said coldly. Just like what Virokana Revered said, the appearance of the heaven-defying lightning phoenix was a huge blow to the Confucian cultivators of the hidden immortal continent. Nangong Jingyin's forehead were already covered in cold sweat. The feeling of flattering the Emperor Go-Chen was truly uncomfortable. Young Master Nangong. Taibai Jinxing, who was beside him, said, when we entered the hall, this old man heard you say that you had come to the Hall of Fragrance to meet the East Sea Empress. It's getting late now. Aren't you going to greet her? Nangong Jingyin let out a sigh of relief and hurriedly said, Your Majesty, this lowly subject doesn't know much about the court and was only speaking off the cuff. Please forgive this lowly subject's crime on account that this lowly subject is wholeheartedly thinking for the human race. I came to the Lingyun Palace to report to His Majesty and pay my respects to the Celestial Empress in the Hall of Fragrance. Go. Immortal Emperor Go Chen didn't say much and ordered. Thank you, Your Majesty. Nangong Jingyin got up and turned to look at Taibai Jinxing. Her eyes were filled with gratitude as she left in a hurry. Before Nangong Jingyin could leave, Fuyue Heavenly King sneered. A brat dares to show off in front of me? Geezer Taibai, you are making things up. I want to see how this brat is going to deal with this. Taibai Jinxing innocently waved his horsetail whisk and replied, I don't dare to make things up in front of His Majesty. He came to pay respects to the Celestial Empress. Damn it, why is he paying respects to the Celestial Empress for no reason? Fuyue Heavenly King snorted. Truly a weasel paying respects to the chicken. Qin Yu quickly interrupted Fuyue Heavenly King and said to Immortal Emperor Go Chen. This lowly subject has 3 questions. Your Majesty, please tell Heaven's Secret Hall to quickly investigate. Speak. Although Immortal Emperor Go Chen's face couldn't be seen clearly, this one word contained a myriad of thunderbolts. He was probably pissed off by Fuyue Heavenly King. Firstly, the origin of this heaven-defying lightning phoenix. Secondly, what exactly was that constellation transit just now? Thirdly, why did the Great Sage Hall's 5-colored sea god shell suddenly drop from the 4th Great Sage to the 7th Great Sage? Qin Yu explained in detail. As long as Heaven's Secret Hall can investigate these 3 matters, the situation in the Thousand Demon Sacred Realm will be clear. Immortal Emperor Go Chen nodded and said, Summon Heaven's Secret Hall's Xie Xian. This lowly subject is here. A voice came from outside the Overcloud Palace. Then, the Heavenly Secret Hall's Palace Master Xie Xian appeared in front of everyone. Did you hear what Heavenly King Qin Yu said? Immortal Emperor Go Chen went straight to the point. Xie Xian bowed and said, This lowly subject knows. This lowly subject has already sent elite disciples to the Thousand Demon Sacred Realm. They will return in a few days. Immortal Emperor Go Chen was very satisfied and asked, What is the matter? Why are you waiting outside the palace? Your Majesty, this lowly subject has an important matter to report. Xie Xian said in a low voice. Immortal Emperor Go Chen looked around and said, Can everyone hear me? Xie Xian thought for a bit and nodded. Yes. Okay, speak. Immortal Emperor Go Chen ordered. Your Majesty, this lowly subject has 3 important matters to report. First, there are several 100,000 high-level cultivators from the Tao Gate inside the Thousand Demon Sacred Realm that are drawing upon the worldly origin energy. Before Xie Xian could finish, Heavenly King Qin Yu interrupted him in shock and shouted, How is this possible? How many Taoist cultivators in this world are his match? What's the origin of this chastity ring? You still haven't found it? Immortal Emperor Go Chen asked unhappily. Xie Xian hesitated for a bit and whispered, This matter belongs to the Hall of Enlightenment. Xie Xian stopped here and lowered his head, I understand. I'll send more people to let your Majesty know. Who else wants to interfere with the sutra seeking extreme bliss? Why don't we just look for Zhenhan and ask her? Taibai Jinxing frowned and asked in a low voice. That's right. Immortal Emperor Go Chen nodded, Send someone secretly to ask. Yes. Xie Xian left after saying that. Immortal Emperor Go Chen looked at Taibai Jinxing and said, Minister, since the sutra seeking extreme bliss is a burial immortal continent, the responsibility is on us Confucian cultivators. If you have time, go take a look and make sure nothing goes wrong. Yes, I understand. Taibai Jinxing nodded without hesitation, I'll go to the Eastern Sea to deal with the heavenly protector of the Buddhist sect. Immortal Emperor Go Chen nodded and looked at Heavenly King Qin Yu. Heavenly King Qin Yu, the 7 great saints of the demon race have sworn brotherhood. Regardless of whether it's just a formality, it's undeniable that the unity of the great saints of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm is unprecedented. If nothing goes wrong, the demon race will stabilize and they'll think of making a move. Our Thousand Demons' sacred realm will be the first to be affected. Regardless of whether the hundreds of thousands of Taoist cultivators are primordial chaos ancestors' subordinates, our immortal palace must be prepared for war. Yes, I understand. Heavenly King Qin Yu cupped his fists and said, I'll prepare the troops after the court session ends. Your Majesty. Taibai Jinxing hesitated for a moment as if he was thinking. Then, Taibai Jinxing said, since perfected cultivator Qin Yuan was mysteriously killed, the position of general of the Sun Palace has been vacant. Our immortal palace needs a general who can fight in battles. What do you have in mind, Your Majesty? Sigh, perfected cultivator Qin Yuan's disappearance is strange. I can't find him even with the supreme heavenly mirror. Immortal Emperor Gochen sighed, I haven't thought about the position of general of the Sun Palace. Oh, since my beloved subject mentioned this, does my beloved subject have any suggestions?